Boy, am I glad to see you. Welcome. Welcome back. Or welcome for the first time, perhaps. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, episode 402. Good Lord. Where has all the time gone? Good to see everybody. Ray Hogan, Stephen Messina. What's up, Brian? John in the UK. Feels like it's been a while since we've done a show. I hope everybody's fall is going well. I hope you're doing good things, and I hope that good things are coming to you. Welcome to the forum where we talk about the tie that binds us together, music, and that's what's up. Hey, Red, Gold, Green, Dub, 1975, nice to see you. What's up, Alan? Oh, Texas. Where in Texas are you, man? What's going on in Texas? Is it snowing yet in Texas? It snowed here in New York City yesterday morning. So, speaking of snow, and it is a Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, Lori Dawn.
Hello, how are you? From snowy Cape Cod. We had a couple of flakes in the air here yesterday as well.
It's snowing!
Yeah.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Nothing made it to the grounds, but it counts. You know,
I remember there was a time when it used to really snow in New York City. It snowed.
Yeah.
I haven't had to shovel my car out in 10 years. I don't know. It used to north of Austin.
We're kind of protected out here. There's more snow on the mainland than the Cape. So
listen, I've said many times, I live, the building I live in is like the friggin' Fuhrer's bunker. It's like I'm like in a pre-war Manhattan building, and it's like there could be a nuclear holocaust out there, and
you wouldn't know.
I would have no idea.
Yeah, that's great.
It's like
so.
It's fine.
Hey, Ray Hogan, I am repping Sad Plant today.
Hello.
Yes, product placement.
Yeah. So, hey, art show coming up, right?
Yes, very excited. This is this Saturday. Got an art show happening at Bridge 9 in Beverly, Massachusetts. It's part of the downtown Beverly Art Crawl, and we're going to have 16 artists over at the record store. You're going to want to come out to this. I'm going to show a couple of pieces from it a little bit later on in the show.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a really cool day out. If you're within reach of Beverly, it's like 5 minutes from Salem. So, yep. It's going to be a good day. You're going to want to come down for that for sure.
And we announced the singers for the singers and performers.
Yes.
For the Holiday Slamboree Women of the Pit coat drive at the Bowery Electric.
Yep,
so
there it is. It's all out there.
Listen, it's all out there, everybody. Get your shoes and socks on, kids. It's right around the corner. Clank your chains and count your change. It's going down. Who do we got? Hey, listen, a lot of the usual suspects, some very special guests, including members of SSD, Minor Threat. It's pretty great.
And you got some women in the band now. You've got R.B. Corbett.
R.B. Corbett's playing. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
it's all happening. I like that. Yeah. What was that? Was that Almost Famous? It's all happening. Is that what that's from?
I'm not sure.
Is that what that's from, gang? It's all happening.
Ask the Peanut Gallery.
That's what it is. Yeah, it is. It's a great movie. That's such a great movie.
Yeah.
That movie really speaks to me,
Very well done.
Yeah, Nate's new band is great. Yep, absolutely. You're talking about No Weapon. Yep.
Yeah.
Can't wait for 12/14. Yeah, Dom, it's going to be great. It's going to be fun.
Start collecting those coats. Gently used, clean coats.
Yeah.
Or you can get some cheap ones at Costco.
Yep.
Donate to our coat drive. We also have we have 2 other coat drives going on Friday night. Yeah, so we've got one up in Boston, and then we've got one a little bit upstate north of the city. So we're collecting all the coats this year.
What are you gonna do with all these coats?
We're gonna we're gonna give them out to people in need. We're gonna hoard them in our basement. We're gonna give them out to shelters and people in need. You know, the winter is coming, so they need to keep warm.
My wife calls me a hoarder sometimes. And I'm like, what do you mean hoarder? I have nothing. I want nothing. I have nothing. It's like I literally have a toothbrush and a couple pairs of underwear and I don't want anything. And she's like, don't be a hoarder. And I'm like, why? Because I won't, because I didn't, it's like, I'm the most unhoarder dude,
Stephen asks, what if I wasn't gentle with my coat?
Right.
Well, then we don't want it. We're talking gently. Don't bring coats with holes in them and missing buttons. Gently used.
I'm a digital hoarder. Hey, speaking before you take off for a little bit, you know what I was thinking? I want to thank Stephen Messina, who gifted me a couple of old Marvel comic books.
Oh, wow.
And as we know, I got rid of my comic book collection, the baseball cards, my records, CDs, all that. I don't want any of it. But sometimes I long for nostalgia, and these are a really nice gift. And I want to see if there's anybody else out there that may have a couple of old Marvel comic books that they don't, maybe it's doubles, or they don't need them, or they want to donate them to the Unhoarder. I think I'm going to start
hoarding again.
Stop being a hoarder.
You've got 3 comic books. That's enough.
Yeah. I have to hide them. Don't tell anybody. Rochelle, if you're watching, these aren't mine.
I'm just holding them for our friends.
Yeah. Those aren't mine. Have I seen the recent Fantastic Four movie? No, I haven't, and I probably won't, because those movies suck now. They used to be cool for a second. I tell you what, new Frankenstein is out on Netflix that Del Toro directed. I want to watch that.
Yeah.
That's on the, I want to.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So, all right.
Okay.
Did you see Vinny Stigma's touring Europe right now? That's pretty funny.
I did see that. Yeah, he's out there bringing his outlawness to Europe.
I'm in the process of unhoarding. Listen, if you're unhoarding any Marvel Golden Age comics, reach out to me. I want them.
Awesome.
I'll fight my wife over it. Anyway, thanks. And we'll see you in a bit, and you'll come on, when towards the end, and we'll chop it up a bit.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, see you in a bit. Yes, this is the one, the only, often imitated, never duplicated, New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and we are sponsored by the Texas Silver Rush, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Generation Records, Woo Man of the Pit, She Devil Coven, and 126 Hardcore Clothing. They're a streetwear brand for restless individuals who don't compromise. They're about being positive, spontaneous, and true to yourself. For years, they experimented with several printing methods and materials and collaborated with a large number of designers and illustrators, always giving room for fresh perspectives while retaining the hardcore attitude. Get in touch with them and ramp up your game at www.126clothing.com. That said, let's clear the deck and let's bring our guest on. Okay. Buckle up, kids. Today's guest is an American singer, musician, and songwriter hailing from Los Angeles, California. In his incredibly proficient career, he's known as a solo artist, as well as his work with the bands Gutterball, The Baseball Project, Danny and Dusty, and of course, The Dream Syndicate. Here today to talk to us about the 40th anniversary release of the Dream Syndicate's album Medicine Show, and much, much more. Please welcome, coming at us from Believe It or Not, Jackson Heights, Queens, Mr. Steve Wynn. Hey, man.
Jackson Heights. Hey, Drew.
Jackson Heights represent.
You were surprised by that, weren't you?
I was blown away.
You thought LA maybe or whatever?
Yeah, I thought Steve Wynn, LA guy, Paisley guy, he's coming at us from, Reseda or something.
Yeah, right. Long Beach or whatever. No, you're right in Queens, man.
Yeah.
As somebody once sang in a song, sitting here in Queens eating refried beans,
That's right. That's right. I was born in Queens. I was born in Booth Memorial in Forest Hills. So.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. I'm a Queens guy,
Well, you and I were talking before the show, and you're on the Upper West Side, and I lived there for 20 years before I moved here. So I've been in everyone. I still get introduced all the time as, oh, you're about to, how's LA? You're from LA. What's it like in LA right now? It's like, man, I've been living in New York 31 years now. I'm more a New Yorker than an Angelino at this point.
Yeah, you have to carry around. You've dragged that LA tag around with you for most of your adult life.
I don't mind.
Yeah. So that said, let's bounce the ball back and forth a little bit, and let's make our way eventually, to the release. How did you come up? Did you grow up in a musical household? How did music come into your life?
Well, before I start that, I heard your introduction at the beginning of your show, and I had to weigh in that It's All Happening is not originally from Almost Famous, but actually, and this is my Angelino roots speaking out, is what Rodney Bingenheimer used to always say on his show.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
I'm pretty sure that's where it starts, because that goes back to the 70s and stuff. Rodney, and I normally can do a pretty good Rodney Bingenheimer imitation. I can't do it right now, but it's all happening. And that's when it cellos records and it's all happening.
Yeah, that makes total. Did you enjoy that film, Almost Famous?
I did, of course. Yeah,
I did too. It really
very well.
Yeah, it spoke to me. I really love that film very much. So
back to your question.
Yeah. How did you come up? Did you grow up in a musical household? How did music come into your life?
I was born, and 1960, and so ways back, and grew up in LA. My parents weren't musicians. They were, they liked music as much as the next person. They weren't rock and rollers necessarily, but being born that year, I grew up in the 60s when music was, there was great stuff all around you. It was on, you turn the radio and you'd hear, Get Off My Cloud next to The Lonely Bull by Herb Alpert, next to, the Supremes' Baby Love. It was sure. Next to Cream and Bob Dylan. It was like, so it was a great time just to kind of discover music as mainstream that are kind of the building blocks of so many things people eventually fell in love with. It was all right there. And I don't know, I got the bug early on. I'd hear that stuff from the age 4 or 5 and said, this is all I care about. And the Creed's Clearwater Revival was probably the first band I really fell in love with, and just thought that's the music I love. So by the time I was 8, I was thinking, I don't just want to listen to this stuff. I want to play it. I want to be a guitarist. I want to sing like these people do. And weirdly enough, at that early age, I thought, well, I want to write songs too.
Wow.
Most people, or lots of people, would hear music. Well, you've got a guitar back there, so I know you play as well. But when you're that young, it's a funny leap to make. Just like to say, well, I want to put this on my little $20 clothes and play and listen to these records. I actually want to mimic them somehow. But I had that bug from a young age.
Who else did you mentioned Creedence, which of course was really quarterbacked by John Fogerty. It was the songwriter. As a very young person, and of course you also mentioned those were the halcyon days of the FM format of radio, and which was a very, very exciting in the late 60s and going into the early 70s. But what other songwriter, dare I say, guitar songwriters, a songwriter music really spoke to you at a very young age?
As far as like a songwriter and a guitarist and that kind of thing, probably the first real one that connected with me was Pete Townsend. Hearing records like Who's Next, but especially at that time in my life, Quadrophenia was a big thing. That came out when I was 13, and that record just said everything to me. That I was already writing songs when I heard that. It had that thing that we all love in music, where you think this person wrote this record just for me. Like how did he know that I'm sitting here living this life he's singing about? He kept that record captures so much about adolescent angst and that feeling of being an outsider and maybe people don't get you. You know, the pretty universal thing. And at the same time, music was so just exciting and aggressive. And I got to say, it's funny as a guitarist. You know, I appreciate all the great lead players, and I'm a big fan of, I don't know, top of my head, like say Tom Verlaine or you know, Robert Quine or Neil Young, all these great lead players. But I've always been drawn more towards the rhythm players, and I love Pete Townshend because the way he plays rhythm. And I think, you know, I can knock out a lead with, you know, with anybody next to me, but you know, at the same time, I like being part of the rhythm section. So that was a big early influence.
Yeah, that makes sense. And at a very young age, you was the Light Bulbs your first band?
It was actually, it indeed was. And it's funny because when I was 9 years old, this is, you know, I'm going up to the fifth grade.
I mean, 9 years old. I mean, even like Ray Hogan says, it's very early age to have that kind of determination. 9 years old.
Yeah. Well, you know, like I said earlier, I was in love with music, and I was thinking, you know, a very formative thing for me was around the time I was 7 or 8 years old. I remember walking around my neighborhood, down by Pico and Crescent Heights in Los Angeles, and walking past a house with an actual garage and hearing an actual garage band, a band playing music in the garage. Couldn't see them. I just heard it coming out. And to me, that was the biggest magic trick. I remember the feeling of, how are there people inside there making that music? I think there are. And it's just, you know, the same way when you first hear a record and think, yeah, are they playing this really right now? They must be. But you know, that was, so I kind of had the bug for wanting, like I said earlier, about wanting to be in band. Now at 9, it's hard to find bandmates. So the Light Bulbs was actually was me and a drummer friend of mine named Philip Haldeman, I'm not in touch anymore, and 4 of the singers. Just for the people in your band, I can't play anything, so you can be singers. So we do, you know, cover Hey Jude, and they go na 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 kind of thing. But it was really just me and another guy. But I mean, shortly after I started playing in, you know, quote unquote real bands. At 12, I formed a band with, you know, 2 guitars, bass, and drums, kind of thing, called Sudden Death Overtime.
Right.
And Sudden Death Overtime, we played. I went to a junior high school called Emerson Junior High School, and I was out down in near West LA, and we played on the school playground, full set, and played the school assembly for kids to show up and listen to us. About 400 kids. And
exciting.
Oh man, we played Jumpin' Jack Flash and Pinball Wizard. There you go.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
And man, I got that intro Pinball Wizard down like nobody's business.
Great.
And
that's
was
great.
exciting. It was early enough to be in a band. People were kind of, and you think, God, that's kind of precocious, but you know, what you do. You listen to the record and figure out the chords, and off you go.
And you went to university, right? University High School.
Yep.
And is that right that Darby Crash and Pat Smear were in the school with you?
Among many, I actually wrote a book here. I got from Music Comment. I wrote this book last year. I'm gonna have to link your chat thing here.
I have it.
There you go. I wrote a book called "I Wouldn't Say It Wasn't True." We're talking about growing up and falling in love with music, and I talk about, there it is, and that's me at 21. And had a Dream Syndicate rehearsal, but getting with my Sex Pistols T-shirt and a Flesh Tones poster back there, and all this stuff going on. But I talk about in the book about going to this high school, Uni High, and if you look up University High School on Wikipedia or whatever, the list of David Cass. Yeah. Oh, Christopher, you're scratching the surface. I mean, Marilyn Monroe and not Judy Garland, but she might have. But later on, a lot of rock people, John Densmore were the Doors. Nels Cline and Kim Gordon both went there right before I did. They were slightly older than me. They were there. And in my time, while I was there, Darby Crash and Pat Smear were classmates. I knew Darby a little bit then. I never met Pat, but I did know Darby. I went to see Heaven Can Wait with Warren Beatty with Darby.
Oh, that's I remember that.
We got thrown out halfway through because he was throwing stuff at the screen. Go Darby.
That's a real 70s film, like Heaven Can Wait. That's when Warren Beatty was on that tear, Shampoo, and like those are great. We just recently we did a big 70s film dive recently and watched Shampoo. It was kind of great, actually.
It holds up, right?
Yeah, it does. It actually does. Shampoo's great. In those sort of those high school years, what was bubbling up musically in LA? Wasn't what was starting to come up? I mean, new wave, punk rock. I mean, what were your peers like into?
Well, it's interesting you say, because I talk about how at 13 I'm playing in a band and playing to people and all that kind of stuff. That's 1973, and looking back now, in hindsight, you can say, well, that was the beginning of the Dolls and the Stooges were happening, MC5 and all that stuff. But at that age, I wasn't that hip to that. I could have been, but it wasn't like it was an easy thing to. I'd read Cream magazine, and I was go to the record stores, but it was a little beyond my reach. And at that point, things seemed pretty dire to me. There's a reason punk rock happened, as we know. It's like things were pretty dire, and I became a sports writer. Some reason at that point, I decided something clicked with me, and I said, well, I still love music and I love playing guitar, but I'm going to be, because I think I've always considered myself a writer first before anything else. Right. And I got into baseball and sports, and I thought, okay, and I became a pretty successful sports writer. I was, writing for the school paper.
And this was around like 14 years old, right?
14 to 17. And if you do the timeline, that's 74 to 77.
Sure. Now,
in my senior year, and I'm sure you've and a lot of your followers have seen the decline of the Western civilization with depression. Darby's sidekick in the movie, the woman he's hanging with in the movie for a lot of the movie, is a woman named Michelle Bear, who was my high school girlfriend. And
wow.
And I was pretty obsessed at the time. My favorite band at the time was Roxy Music. I had kind of a bent for the sort of the weird art rock. I like, I was into Bowie, and I would sort of knew Iggy as a byproduct of that. But she was getting into punk rock, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. I was aware of what she was listening to. But I split LA and went to college up north at a city called Davis, UC Davis, near Sacramento. And while I was there, I went there in the summer of 77, and something just clicked, and I fell hook, line, and sinker into all things punk rock, new wave, everything, attached with that. And weirdly enough, not in LA, but in this small little college town, I, along with about 40 friends of mine, became part of this little scene there. A lot of people ended up being in bands later on who just were all about this new music and nothing else. That just changed my life, and I managed to see everybody play in San Francisco and even in Davis, all the bands. Is University of
California, Davis, is that closer to the Bay Area than to LA?
Yes, exactly. It's in fact, it's about an hour and a half to San Francisco, and
I see.
I would drive back and forth along I-80 every week to buy the latest records and imports and see. I saw the Sex Pistols last show and see.
Oh wow!
And see the Clash and see the Jam, and I would, and a lot of these bands would play. Weirdly enough, in Davis, in our, the Ramones, Devo, XTC.
Wow, that's great.
In our little coffee house, there was a little venue at the school called the Coffee House. It held 250 people. The stage was about 6 inches high, and these bands would play there. So I saw the Ramones. A favorite story of mine. I saw the Ramones there, standing really face to face with Johnny Ramone. I'm like, he's on the same level I am, watching him, and I'm watching him all the time. And he had his, Mose Wright guitar, of course, with his Ramones picks in the pick guard sticking out. And I'm standing thinking, I bet I can take one. I bet if I can catch him, because he's all downstrokes. He's not taking a break. I could probably grab one and run. And I waited for the right moment, and I said, I'm doing it. And I grabbed a Ramones pick out of his pick guard. He gave me the look of death, but there's nothing he could do, and I was gone. So being in Davis was great because you could see bands that close and be a big fish in a small pond. Whereas I would have been in LA still then, maybe I wouldn't have had the huevos to do it.
It reminds me a little bit of like the Chance in Poughkeepsie, New York, or the Capitol Theater in Passaic, where these kind of outlying areas would get some of the big acts on their way in and on the way out of New York City, because bands would have to play the night before and bands would have to play the night after. And the Chance in Poughkeepsie was a place like that. The Capitol Theater, had, which was the Who, the Stones, the Grateful Dead. I mean, and then the next night, those bands would be playing Madison Square Garden. Sounds like a similar type of situation.
You nailed it. Very similar, because as we know, like as you find out later on, if you're touring, you got to fill in those days. You can't just play. So you are going to play the little towns. People say, "Why are you?" I just played with the Dream Syndicate 2 weeks ago in Bellingham, Washington, which I really liked. I'd never been there before. It was a really cool town. And people said, and a few people came up afterwards and said, "Why are you playing in Bellingham?" I said, "Because they booked us. You go there. It's Tuesday or whatever, and you play the city in between the other cities."
And for those watching, we've talked about this many times. If you don't really know a lot about the touring life, a day off, will cost you. You'll lose a day. So you have to fill pretty much every day. A day off means hotel rooms and gas and food, and it's coming out of pocket. So sometimes people say, what are you doing playing here on a Tuesday night? Well, I'd rather be playing, on a Tuesday night than sitting in a hotel room on the road. So.
Mike Watts says, if you ain't playing, you're paying.
Yeah, right.
The famous Mike Watts quote. He nailed it.
Yeah,
and he never takes days off. I really do also.
You mentioned the Jam and the Clash, two bands that really resonated for me as a young person. Must have been great to see them early on.
God, yeah. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I'm in a band with the guitarist in my solo band, and also the Dream Syndicate, Jason Victor, who's a big fan of your show, and Jason is 13 years younger than I am. And you talk to somebody who's just a little bit younger, and you talk about the bands you've seen, they go, "Oh my God." And same way, if I talk to somebody 10 years older than me who saw the Beatles or saw Alan Wolf, for God's sake, it's like, it happened.
Sure.
Amazing. But I saw these great shows, and being a fan of that music at that time, you would see the Clash one year when they were touring behind Give 'Em Enough Rope, and come back the next year and see them supporting London Calling, and see the progress these great bands were making. Like, wow, they were good last year, but look what they're doing now.
And I don't want to. I'm gonna foreshadow a little bit, because when we get to, you mentioned "Give 'Em Enough Rope," which was produced by Sandy Pearlman, right? Which we're gonna revisit later, because he ended up producing Medicine Show, which is what brings us here today. But I'm just foreshadowing that.
Yeah, just spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Sandy Pearlman. So when you were up there, is that when you were playing guitar and started Suspects?
Yeah. So I was up there, and suddenly I found myself, and when I went to Davis, as a 17-year-old, that summer, I went there with the full idea of, like, I'm going to be a sports writer. In fact, I went to Davis because the reason I went there, as opposed to other schools, I wanted to be a journalist, and I thought, well, I'm not going to major in journalism. I already know how to do that. So instead, I decided I'm going to major in, get this, rhetoric. I said, rhetoric will be good, because if you can master rhetoric, you can write about anything. That's because of my 17-year-old logic I had.
Sure.
Ryan,
makes
very
sense
right
to me.
Boxman, by the way. But so I went. So Davis had a rhetoric program. Now that ended up serving me very well. I'll tell you why. Because when I went to Davis, I very quickly stopped caring about sports and sports writing when I heard "Rocket to Russia" and when I heard "Nevermind the Bollocks" and and "Young, Loud, and Snotty" and these records like that. And suddenly that was all over. And I was in. This is going to bring a little bit full circle to talking about the Jam. It was in one of my first classes, a rhetoric class, which amounted to 6 people sitting in folding chairs in a circle and talking. It was like, stuff, Est or something like that, talking about their feelings and what they're holding. It was weird. I said, I realized this is not the thing I want to study. But I was in the small class, and I somehow, I heard a girl in the class talking to her friend about the Jam, and she said, "Oh, I love the Jam, but they're playing in Winterland next week, but I have no way to get to the show." And I already had tickets. And I walked up to her and I said, "I'm actually going to the show and I have a car. I can drive you there." And she said, "Wow, that's great. And so let's go." Well, the woman the girl in the class who I was talking to, her name was Kendra Smith, and she became the bass player in the Dream Syndicate several years later. That's how we met. Going to this Jam concert. The Jam, I was just talking about the other day, the bill with the Jam, Bebop Deluxe, and Horselips. One of the weirdest bills ever.
I'm not familiar with Horses, but I'm familiar with Bebop Deluxe.
Horses were kind of a Irish prog folk bands. I mean, it's the kind of Bill Graham would put these bills together with these
and this was, I mean, for those that may not know, the old Winterland was an old ice skating rink where they used to do ice capades. It was like a big cavernous type, like they used to do ice capades there, and then Bill Graham got his hands on it, and it became a much lauded and beloved venue in San Francisco.
The Pistols played their last show there, the last waltz with the band. Anyways, we went there, and in the course of going to the show and talking to each other, you know, I mentioned that I play guitar and I write songs, and I wanted to someday form a band. And she said she had sung in her high school choir or something like that, in the church choir, I don't know, something like that. It's great, you can be the singer in this band. And we put together this, you know, just trying to find people locally. I'd met a guy named Russ Tolman, who went on to make many records with True West and other bands. I met him at the local radio station, and he said he played guitar, and he was into this kind of music as well. So we had 3 people, and when we put out an ad in the local, you know, college paper, saying,
and that's how you got Gavin Blair?
Gavin Blair and Steve Suchel, the other last 2 members, by saying we were looking for people into basically punk rock and Nuggets. So fans of 13-Pole Elevator, the Standells, and the Ramones.
Nuggets, the reference, of course, Lenny Kaye's release. Yeah,
exactly. So this was a very specific thing in a city where most people weren't into this stuff. And we formed this band called Suspects, where we didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we learned how to be a band and how to rehearse and write new songs. And, you know, we'd play in Davis. There weren't a lot of places to play. Maybe play at a swimming, you know, a dorm party. Look, there it is. You'd play a dorm party or something like that, or a swimming pool, maybe the coffee house, the venue I was talking about. But we finally started playing at the famous Mabuhay Gardens. The booker there, Dirk Dirksen, took a liking to us, and he'd book us, I mean, once a month, it seemed like it, on Tuesday night, 4th build for $30, and we'd think this is the big time. So we would go there regularly and play at the Fab Mab.
And pre the Dream Syndicate, when you were kind of doing these trips, who was in that circuit as well? Do you remember, like, when in those early days when you would make those jaunts down to Mabuhay? Like, did you have any kindred spirits? Any other bands?
Not in San Francisco, because we would just go there and come back. I mean, I'd see bands like the Avengers and see bands like Chrome and stuff like that.
Sure.
But we weren't part of any scene. That was the kind of very fortunate thing, in a way, of being in a small town like Davis. I think if you're in a big city like San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York or London or whatever, you could be swallowed up, or maybe you might develop too quickly, or maybe be told that's not cool, this is cool. Being in Davis, we just did whatever we liked. But the funny thing was, in Davis, there were a bunch of other musicians who all went on to various things. A guy named Guy Kaiser, who formed Thin White Rope, was our first guitar roadie. Scott Miller, who formed Game Theory and the Loud Family, was a kid who was in the neighborhood. And then, of course, me and Kendra and Russ Tolman. So there was kind of a music scene there that spread out. And shortly after this period, in 1980, I moved back to LA. I'd had enough of the small town.
After the band broke up.
Yeah, I guess we made that single there, and we broke up. You know, and we only broke up because I just wanted to get out of town. I'd had enough of, you know, a town, you know, with cows outnumber people. You know, it wasn't my thing. I'm born and raised in LA, and that was what I wanted. So I went back to LA, and Kendra did the same. She, not because of me, but she also went back to, and we both went to UCLA, and that was when I started kind of gradually finding out about what was happening in a bigger scene and meeting people.
That makes sense. And this Suspects, this wasn't the initial foray on your label, was it?
Well, not per se. It wasn't. It was just we did self-release it. And, God, that little songwriting credit thing's really obnoxious. I just felt like I had to put my name big all caps on the cover. I was very I was very proud. I was very proud of my songwriting. I'd like want people to know. I guess whatever.
Yeah,
But what? Yeah. But that was we did self-release that made like 300 copies and
sure.
sold like 30. But we
Yeah.
we said we got a record, and we
Hey,
didn't we didn't. None of us loved the record. It was God. It's just a weird thing, and you'll appreciate this, and probably may not be surprised. But at that point in 1979, we would go to try to find a recording studio to work at, and we went around Sacramento. And studios cost more then than they do now.
That's
And
right.
I don't mean by related dollars. I mean literally, you
Yeah,
couldn't find a place to make a record. And we finally found someone with a home studio in San Francisco, and we knocked that out in one day. And it's a cute little record, but it's not really
sure.
representative of what we loved.
Yeah,
But it was good enough.
Getting it done. The recording and actually coming up with the money to print a record and getting it it was a feat beyond comprehension for a lot of us in those days. It was not. It's taken for granted now where you could do music and just put it on digitally and for the whole world to hear. But back then, I have a few regrets, and one of them is, in early 80s when I was in the High and the Mighty, we didn't have the money to print up the 7-inch. It took a lot. It wasn't that easy back then. It really wasn't.
And how would you even find out about that kind of stuff? Where there was obviously no internet, and even where would you maybe see the back of a magazine? The back.
We were kids.
We were kids.
We were friggin' kids.
And the way I figured it out was really the only other job I've had besides what I do now and being a sports writer was I was working in record stores, and I moved to LA and got a job at Rhino Records.
Oh wow!
To me, that was the best. I was a star. Like getting a job at Rhino Records, I figured life can never get better than this. This is like I won the lottery. I'm working at Rhino.
Where was Rhino located then?
Westwood Boulevard, just north of Santa Monica Boulevard.
Yeah.
It was there for quite a while. That was the main place, and I worked side by side. It was kind of a store where, the entire staff were all music fanatics and all with different things they loved. There was the jazz guy, there was the country guy, there was the blues guy, there was the reggae guy. I was sort of the punk and indie, and they didn't call it indie back then, but punk and import and independent guy over there. And my workmate behind the counter every day was Nels Klein, who's now in Wilco and done a million things. Nels, back then he actually was a recording and performing jazz musician, and he was fantastic. So working at a store like that, Byron Coley, the great Byron Coley, he worked there as well. I mean, it was a real, the people worked there knew stuff. And so it was an education in music for me, but also it was an education on how to put out a record, because my job there was buying all the records from independent distributors and labels, and also taking things on consignment. Bands would come in. Peter Buck from REM comes in with a single and brings 5 copies for a second consignment.
Wow.
Which, now one of my best friends and my bandmate,
Sure.
He came in, and this started the scene there because, first of all, by doing that job, I kind of got hip to how you make a record, manufacture a record, and then eventually get it distributed. Now, I will say somewhat sheepishly, I had a little leg up on other bands because as my job was to buy all the independent records out there from all these other distributors. When I made my own record, they had to take my record and they had to pay me. So that didn't hurt.
Yeah.
And they all knew me and we had a relationship. But I had formed this new band called the Dream Syndicate with my, and we knew.
Wasn't 15 minutes in between? Didn't that kind of?
I am skipping a step. Yeah. Well, 15 minutes was basically in when I moved to LA. I still, was writing songs and playing guitar, but I was at first kind of overwhelmed by the LA punk scene and not even the music scene in general. It was kind of in the after 1980 in LA and 81. It was sort of in this sort of post-NAC kind of world, and punk rock had sort of shifted to the South Bay to, and bands like Black Flag and Circle Jerks.
The heavy stuff was coming in. Black Flag.
Yeah. But it was less of a Hollywood thing. Became more of a, Orange County and South Bay.
Social Distortion, TSOL, Black Flag,
Asian Orange, all great stuff.
Right. Sure.
But so that was happening on one end, this power pop on the other, and then kind of this roots thing was happening with bands like the Blasters and Top Jimmy and the Rhythm Pigs. But all these things were going on, and I couldn't figure out how the music I loved, which was kind of this hybrid of garage and psychedelic and 60s influence, melded with punk rock, how this fit into the scene. So I just was in my own corner, and I had bought this 4-track reel-to-reel TAC 3340. And I bought that, and I just became obsessed with it. I just learned how to do sound-on-sound recording and my own stuff. I just recorded endlessly in the basement, and I was just having fun with it. I wasn't playing on a reel.
Could you overdub on a machine like that?
Could I what?
Could you overdub on a TAC?
Yes, I could.
You could. So you could record and then overdub, and it's like a home studio.
Yeah, and I had a cheap little drum machine, this Dr. Rhythm they called it, and I had and I sort of would just mess around the basement, and I recorded these couple of songs. One was "That's What You Always Say," which has become the Dream Syndicate staple. That was one of the songs I recorded the drum machine. Kendra Smith started playing bass, and I borrowed her bass and did this little recording. And I said, well, I really like what I recorded here. I was really proud of it. And I said, you know what? I'm not particularly in love with that Suspect single. And as that might be the only record I ever make in my entire life, because I'm probably never going to do this for my life, I want one record I'm proud of. So I found a way to put out that home recording, and I called it 15 Minutes because my one-man inside joke was that this is my 15 minutes of fame. I'm going to do one record and then get on with my life and do whatever one does with their life. So that was it. I just had I put out the single, made like 500 copies, sold it at Rhino.
And that was on your imprint down there, the first release on your imprint, which you've recently resurrected.
And I called it Down There because I was living in my father's basement at the time. So that was
awesome.
And Down There has a lot of other meanings. You can tell all the different third meanings. But I was literally living and recording in a basement.
That's awesome.
So it was down there. And anyway, I put that thing together and learned how to. I went to a local manufacturer called Rainbow Records, which was kind of the main game in town if you're doing your own records. So I got hip to what they were doing, how things worked. Well, within a month or two of putting that record out, I started playing music with a guy I had met named Carl Bracota. Now, the way I met Carl, and Carl, as we will say, became the guitarist in the Dream Syndicate on our first couple records, and on Medicine Show that you're mentioning. I was playing at the record store. I'd met, I'm going to backtrack for this. I met a couple of sisters who shopped at the store and said they played music, and one was a guitarist and one was a drummer. And I said, well, I almost hate saying this story because it might hurt their feelings, but I said, let's get together and jam. I fell in love with their music. Their name was Christine Kelly Cowan. And the reason I fell in love with their music is they reminded me of the Shags. They played this very, innocent music that randomly sped up and slowed down and changed keys. And I thought, oh my God, I have met, now I'm not sure if your father was on the Shags, but the Shags were kind of this sort of outsider avant through, so I don't know. I don't want to say idiot savant because it's an awesome record, but it's really outsider music. And they reminded me of this outsider music, and I went, oh, this is the greatest. They later on found out who the Shags were and what they sounded like, and they got really mad at me saying, we don't sound like that. So actually, they went on to form a band called Wednesday Week that did pretty well. So they did move beyond their Shagsdom. But we were looking for a bass player, and we advertised in a newspaper called The Recycler, which in LA was how you found, or how you bought a used car, bought a guitar, or found bandmates.
Let me just say that as far as this is sort of, for those who may not know, this is the image of the Shags that always comes to mind for me. And like,
look at that.
Were they three sisters?
They were two sisters.
Two sisters, right? Okay.
And I just saw Christy recently. They really went on to become very good musicians, make more pro records. But I just liked when they sounded like that picture looked. But we needed a bass player because I guess one needs a bass player. So we
Oh wait,
advertised that.
and the philosophy of world. That's the record, right?
Philosophy of the World, which is the greatest record.
Yeah, Here it is, folks. So this is the image for me that comes to mind when you mention the Shags. Here you go. This is the album. There you go. Philosophy of the World.
Look at that.
Yeah,
it sounds like it looks.
It just reeks. It just reeks of that era. You know.
Well, it sounds like people who picked up those instruments and never heard a record before in their life. You know, just like we don't even know what music is supposed to sound like or how it's put together. We're just going to bang on these things and then put our emotions out through it. And it's an incredible record.
You know, so it's so true because even I think in the arts in general, but even in filmmaking, you know, when you have filmmakers that come along that aren't from the practiced school of filmmaking, they're immediately thinking outside the box. And last night we were rehearsing for this thing we have coming up, and we're doing we're doing this. We're doing a covered thing with a lot of different singers, but we're doing a couple songs by the band SSD Control. And like when I was in the High and the Mighty, this music was made by teenagers, young people that had no idea of sort of music theory or anything. And that's what makes it so in a lot of ways, that's what makes it so precious and so special. And I certainly could not write like that now as you know, but it's like you said, it's like outsider art. It's really great.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to rediscover that. I'm always trying to, because I want to have that feeling when I was 8 years old.
Is that right? Zappa said they were better than the Beatles.
I mean, Frank had a case for you could make a case for that. Yeah. I don't think the Beatles could have played the Shags. I was like, as a side note to that, I did see that, and maybe you were there, but I saw the Shags play Bowery Ballroom about 20 years ago, opening.
Oh wow!
Sun Ra Orchestra. I think Yo La Tango too.
Wow.
Bill, Yo La Tango, Sun Ra Orchestra. Yeah, and they got the Shags to play that. No, the NRBQ. Because the point of the story is, sadly, the drummer had passed away, and to replace the drummer, they brought in Tommy, the drummer from NRBQ, and he played the parts exactly, and you could see how hard he was working. You could see him concentrating with all his energy to play those parts right. It's not easy.
Was that like one of Lenny's Nugget shows or something at the Bowery Ballroom? Because I know he's had those from time to time.
No, it wasn't that. I think it might have been curated by, in my mind, and it's either NRBQ or Yo La Tango. It might have been Ira thing, or it might have been one of those two put this thing together and got them out of. Well, so the point here's, I love the Shags. I love what we were doing, but we advertised for a bass player, and the only person who responded to my ad was this guy named Carl Picotto, who was kind of like a gangly beanpole, sort of like Jeff Beck, a malnutrition Jeff Beck, Jeff Beck who needs to eat better, healthier food, and he shows up and jams with us. And when I walked him out to his car afterwards, he said, "They're terrible, but I like your songs." And I tell this story. It's in my book, and I don't even know if they've heard this story because they probably would hurt their feelings, because they really were great and became. But he said that, and I said, "Well, let's play." Well, Carl and I started jamming in the basement, and we were playing this music that we both loved that we couldn't even identify. We just played one chord for an hour, and think that was just, we were aware of the Velvet Underground. We were aware of, bands like, Noi and things like that, and
television.
And television, of course. We weren't that good. We could be aware of, we weren't Lloyd and Verlaine yet. We were getting there, but we really were drawn. The two of us were really entranced by how long can we play one chord and see how that chord will vibrate if you play it long enough. And I talked to Kendra Smith, who was in my college band, the Suspects. I said, "Kendra, you got to check this thing out." And she came down, she heard what we were doing, and said, "I want to play bass in this band." So the three of us were just happy as clams, doing nothing but playing Susie Q for an hour, or playing the song that's what you always say that was on my record. Things that had minimal changes, doing this sort of thing. No ambition to do anything. No, we didn't think we're going to make a record. We didn't think we're going to play shows. We just having fun in the basement. Kendra's, and we had a drummer at the time that met through the record store, a guy named Randy, who, very sweet guy. I'm still in touch with him. Mm-hmm. he was, not the world's greatest drummer, but he kind of kept time with us, and that was fine. And Kendra at one point said, I'm friends with Dennis Duck, who played in Human Hands, and I want to invite him to rehearse with us. Would that be cool? Now, at this point in time in LA, Human Hands, they weren't the Beatles, but they were, when you're a band on a local scene who plays the Whiskey A Go-Go and the Roxy,
Sure,
and has a record in the record stores and gets played on the radio and the Rodney Bingenheimer show, to me, that was a rock star. And I thought, Dennis Duck is not going to want to come play with us. So, well, his band broke up. He's looking for something to do. Dennis comes to our basement on a rainy night, which in LA is pretty rare. It's a rainy December night in LA. Drives across town an hour and a half, sets up his drums, and plays with us for an hour and a half. And we didn't try to impress him. We didn't say, oh, we better, be on our best behavior. We said, okay, set up over there. And we just played, again, one chord for an hour, and thought that was fun. We played Suzy Q for another hour, and they said, okay, I'm going to go home now. He'd recorded the whole thing on his boombox, and he left. And we figured, that guy, there's a guy who's regretting the last 2 hours of his life. But I call him 2 days later, and just to be nice, I say, Dennis, thank you for coming to play with us. It was very nice to meet you. I'm a big fan. I've seen you play. And did you have a chance to listen to that recording you made of a rehearsal? And Dennis said, I've listened to nothing else in the 48 hours since then. It's the best thing I've ever heard. I want to be in your band. And we couldn't believe it. Like, you want to be in our band. Wow. Okay. So we proceeded to, and this is the crazy part of the story is, we 2 weeks later recorded what we thought was a demo tape to get gigs. There we are.
This is said lineup, correct?
Said lineup, and probably not long after the story I'm telling, maybe a month or two later.
There you go.
We recorded 4 songs just to get gigs. 4 songs I'd written, 3 songs I'd written, and one that Carl there in the striped shirt, 1 song he had written. That's Dennis in the front with his arms up there, and we recorded demo tape. And I remember Dennis saying, I have a friend who can record our session. His name is Paul Cutler. Now, Paul Cutler, I said, Paul Cutler, he's in 45 Brave and Vox Pop. He's the greatest. Okay, great. Paul will come record the session. We heard what we recorded in this demo session, thought, it's pretty good. We all felt like we are music fans enough to know that if this was a record, all of us would buy this. So we had the balls to go and press it up. And I thank my mother for this. My mother lent us a few $100 so we could get that record pressed up. Well, immediately, this little demo tape that became this self-pressed record on down there, our first 4-song EP came out and just connected so fast with people. It got written up everywhere in LA Weekly, even like in the LA Times. We started getting gigs. It was just really weird, like we were playing this music we thought for only ourselves, but I guess there are other people on the scene who wanted to hear this kind of thing as well. It was exciting, and at the same time, now getting back to you're talking about the Paisley Underground, there were other bands around LA mining a similar territory, thinking they were all alone in what they were doing. There were bands like Salvation Army and the Bangs and Rain Parade, who all felt equally orphaned in this weird music, and we found each other, and a scene was born.
Was Green on Red part of that?
Yeah, we joke about that because we always say that the Bangs, Salvation Army, Rain Parade, and Dream Syndicate were the original Paisley Underground. And we say the Green on Red, and Long Riders, well, they came later. And by later, we mean 4 or 5 weeks later, But it was enough later. It's like, oh, they're the new guys on the scene.
We often laugh about that too. How when you're younger, like a summer feels like 10 years, right? A couple months feels like 2 months. A summer feels like so much happens, and now as you get older, it seems to happen a bit faster.
Well, and you say that because I look at what's happening in LA right before our little scene. Now our scene was kind of blossomed in 1982, and we were embraced by the old guard. I'm putting that in quotes, and the old guard being X and Wall of Voodoo and the Minutemen all asked us to open shows almost immediately. And I look at X and think, well, X are an established band. They were a year older than we were. They'd been on the scene. I thought X, my God, they're
well, they were in the decline and every.
Well, I wouldn't say that because they were a great band, but they were a band that had been around forever. meaning 1 year.
Yeah. Right. So what you're talking about that you printed up, the demo really turned out to be really the initial EP that you put out, right? And I know you guys started playing at very early '83, and was the Dream Syndicate's first show at Club Lingerie? Is that right? Was that the same Club Lingerie that I remember later in Hollywood? Was it the same place?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It was the happening club in town too. That was like, once again, how fast things happen. Dennis being a bit of a known figure on the scene because really Human Hands were popular. He was sort of in with people here and there, and he knew the guy who booked Club Lingerie at the time, a very key fat guy in the LA scene, Brendan Mullen, sadly departed. It was great. He was I thought you had Brendan there. I would love to have seen. But Brendan talked to Dennis, and Dennis mentioned he had a new band, and Brendan said, well, Brian Brain is coming to play a show. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Martin Atkins, his new band. So he said, do you want to open? So Brendan said, do you want to open that show? Now, we've been banned for 3 weeks. The show was sold out just on basis of, they sold 400 tickets just on basis of Pill, on the basis of, Pill having been popular. And this is the drummer's new band. So I like to joke, our first show was a show with 2 drummers' new band, the Pill drummer and the Human Hands drummer. And that's all we were. Look, there we are. We were riding the coattails of Dennis. We were Dennis Duck's new band, and that's how we got our first gigs. And we started with this, what band plays our first show in front of, a sold out gig in the hippest club in Hollywood? But there we were. We'd already made our record. We'd already played a show. At that point, it just happened ridiculously fast for us.
And in keeping with that spirit, as we head towards a bit of a sponsor break, but I sort of want to address the Days of Wine and Roses. How did you get involved with Slash and with Chris D, who sort of like in our world over here, we know Slash and Ruby. Ruby put out The Misfits Walk Among Us, which really resonates big in our world here at the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. But so did all that sort of like lead right into the Slash thing?
Yeah, it did, because again, we definitely were getting a lot of attention at the time. We were sort of the it band at that moment, which was fun, to be that band. And so everybody starts, wants to hang out with you all of a sudden. And bear in mind, I'm still a clerk at Rhino Records. I'm still selling records by day and making $3 an hour, and still living in my dad's basement. And I'm only a few months removed from not knowing anybody or having anything going. Like all of a sudden, everybody's kind of digging us. And Slash was, like you're saying, they were the best, the coolest label. They did have X and the Blasters and Gun Club, who I loved. And they were on Ruby, of course. So Chris D.
That Gun Club record,
Oh, I mean, that I have to say, I often like to say that in '81 it was a weird time, as you know, because it was sort of after the first bloom of punk rock. By that point the Pistols were gone, the Clash were already kind of becoming mainstream. They were already moving on to becoming a bigger band. Everything was sort of breaking up or getting bigger or whatever, and it was a weird time. But in '81, the record that rocked my world was Fire of Love. That was. I said, this is a sign that there's hope for the future.
Ghost on the Highway, yeah.
Oh my God, record. So when I met Chris,
I love that record. For those of you out there, Gun Club, Fire of Love. It still really holds up, and it's still really great. Jeffrey Lee Pierce, the great late Jeffrey Lee Pierce.
Great late Jeffrey Lee Pierce, who has become such a, sadly he died in 1996. And didn't get to see. He was known and a working musician, but he didn't get to see how influential he would become. That he became the hero, not just of people like me, but of Nick Cave and Mark Lanigan, and so many people who looked to the music he made. It just, at that time, 100%. There was nothing like that. Nothing like that. And
100%.
So to have Chris D, the guy who produced that record, come to us and say, "I love your band. I want to have you on my label on Ruby." We said, "Where do we sign?" Yeah. Absolutely.
Was Ruby like Chris's imprint on Slash?
Yeah.
Oh, I never really got that. I never realized that.
Yeah, but
And
Bob Big ran Slash like Chris, because Chris, well, he was a writer for Slash magazine and a guy on the scene. And so he was very, cool guy in the scene. And somehow Bob Big said, "Ruby is yours. That's your label."
Yeah.
So he did, yeah. Well, Lydia
And of course,
Lunch and Misfits, and
right. And Chris, of course, for the Flesh Eaters and later the Divine Horsemen.
right.
Yeah.
So he came along. He wanted us a label, and the record you put up there, Days of Wine and Roses, we couldn't have been. Finding Chris was really the greatest thing that happened to us, because he loved us enough to just put us in a studio and just say, "Do your thing," and he stood back. All he did was make sure we got in there, the amps were turned on, and we didn't chicken out. We didn't try to get cute. We just go do it, and it was great.
And that's how Chris produced you. Like that.
Yes,
produced is used loosely.
But that's producing. I mean, he produced in a way the same way that Leonard Chess produced Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters. He produced in the same way that maybe all these people who captured a moment in time was there to say, "I am protecting this moment in time. I'm not going to manipulate it. I'm not going to shine it up. I am the guardian of something I love." What a great thing to do. And so I'm not slighting what he did at all. And there were a couple times in the session, he would say, there was one moment where he said, "I think you guys might have gone too far." And he said, "Well, it was a moment, we had a song on that record called Until Lately, where we just got really noisy and pushed way into the red." He said, "You're just distorting the tape here." And we said, "Too bad. We like it that way." He said, "Okay, fine." And that was the only time he even thought to curtail what we were doing.
Sure. Brett the bookie, my neighbor, in the next village, says he must be just. He said, "Hey, yo, Drew, just checking in. I remember Dream Syndicate. I think they played at Club Lingerie, which wasn't far from the club I opened with a friend, Plato's West on Cahuenga."
Oh my God, are we talking the same as Plato's?
Yeah.
You should be having Brett on your show and not me. He's got better stories than I do.
I've tried to get Brett on the show. Brett's an elusive character.
All right.
Hey, Brett.
The Brett show.
Call me later, Brett. So
this shows how naive I was. I never knew there was a Plato's West. So that shows you what.
Plato's wasn't Plato. I think Plato's East was in my neighborhood here, right? It was in the Ansonia, I think.
I plead ignorance. I knew it existed.
Yeah.
It was the Ansonia. Wow.
So Days of Wine and Roses, and I'm just moving it along. We're going to take a break and we're going to come back and we're going to hit Medicine Show hard. But Days of Wine and Roses was the last album with Kendra, right? The some changes in the band after this.
Yeah, we made that record with Kendra, and once again our hot streak kind of continued because it came out and got really great reviews everywhere, and it sort of expanded our audience to not just an LA scene but across the country. And whoa, people, this record is just connecting with people, and it's a record we wanted to make, and we believed it, and people liked it. So we went on tour. We did our first tour in January and February of 1983 across, and man, I guess were living in New York then, right? Were you
I was back in New York.
You remember that blizzard in '83?
Somewhat, yeah.
I mean,
it's funny because I said at the begining of the show it used to snow in New York.
Yeah, I heard you. Well, it did that. Let me tell you, we went out on the road and touring now we're Californians, Angelinos.
Oh God!
I never saw snow fall from the sky till I was 23. Till this tour, I'd see it on the ground, maybe drive up in the mountains and make snowballs or whatever. If you're in California, but the snow coming from the sky. And now we are on tour, so we played DC at the famous 9:30.
9:30, sure.
And our next show was going to be at Danceteria in New York. Like, whoa, this is a big deal. And I was, let's just say, there's a reason I live in New York. Everything I loved was New York. Movies, books, music, all my favorite things were New York. I dreamed of living here. And I dreamed of playing my first ever New York show. And Danceteria was a big deal at the time, and I could not wait. Well, we played the next show at the 9:30 and woke up the next day to this blizzard. And it took us 6 hours to drive from DC to Baltimore. And we weren't getting any further. And we called it Danceteria, and I was heartbroken. We called them up and they said, "Hey, it's no big deal. No one's going out tonight anyway."
True.
Cool. But I was heartbroken. I thought, this is it. My New York dreams were all over. Well, again, the relative expanse of time, a year being 10 years, whatever. 10 days later, we were playing at Folk City in the Village, and it went great, and things were just. Yeah. And we played the Mud Club a week later, so it was fine. But I was kind of sad to miss out on our first show.
What great classic New York venues we're talking about here.
Nice.
The Mud Club, Danceterias, might as well Hurrahs, Tracks.
Never played there.
Yeah. These are places that I go.
But with this tour, your question, so we did this tour, 6-week tour, with a little bit the challenges of the weather and, let's say, bad behavior, as young bands will do, and came home pretty ragged, and came home a different band too. We came home, just sort of a little bit wiser and a little more knowing and a little more like an idea, like, okay, we want to take this success and kind of keep moving on it. And I think Kendra just kind of saw the changes we'd gone through, maybe the changes I had gone through, the changes Carl, the way we were relating to each other, and said, I think I want out. And she quit shortly after coming home from this tour. And I was shocked. Like, why would you quit this band now? But she went on to do great things with Opal and the not Mazzy Star, but the band that became Mazzy Star.
Opal was sort of the embryonic Mazzy Star. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's a story in itself. I'll save for another time. But she didn't want to do the Dream Syndicate anymore, and we were rocketing higher every week. There were new things happening, and we've been asked to open a tour for U2, a cross country tour for U2 at the Capitol Theater in Passaic, New Jersey. Actually, that's the story that ties into the story we're going to be telling. But we'd been offered this tour days after Kendra quit. I was like, holy cow, what do we do now? Found another bass player, rehearsed one time, and off we went touring with U2. It was just crazy. Yeah.
Let's revisit this in a couple minutes. Let me take a sponsor break. Yes. You got 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes if you want to get up, and we'll see you back here in a couple minutes.
See you back here.
Okay. That's right. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest today, and we're having a great time, Steve Wynn from the Dream Syndicate. Really great. Looking forward to thanks for stopping by. Let's do some sponsor stuff. We got Lori Dawn's going to come back a little bit later, and we're going to talk about what's going on. So here we go. Since 1992, Generation Records has been a mainstay of the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as t-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
Will that be cash or in debt?
Do you mean debit?
Yes. Sorry. Another eternally satisfied customer.
Yo, what's happening? I'm out here at one of our all-ages Sunday matinees on the Bowery. I hope that you are enjoying today's show. I just want to let you know that the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live needs your support. Please step up. There is a Patreon page that has a lot of unique program. Shows are announced there first. Lots of good stuff. There's a PayPal address right there on the screen if you want to make a contribution. There's also a super chat function. You could do that, but the bottom line is this show exists because of your support. We're going to be doing it for a long, long time. Thank you for all your support through the years. Back to the show.
Conditioned by indoctrination, conditioned by society. You're a victim of the digital age, a 21st century casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Conditioned by misinformation, it's just the media telling us lies. Decipher fiction from the truth, society's slow and tragic demise. down the phone. Everyone's goddamn fucking.
And we're back. This is it. This is what you've come for. The highlight of all our days, the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Want to mention a couple of upcoming shows. We're getting right back at it. This Sunday, Chris Ryfort from Autopsy. Hey, Lori Dawn. What's going on?
How are you? I just had a little catastrophe.
A catastrophe.
Yeah, I had to run out for a second.
Yeah. This Sunday, Chris Ryfort from Autopsy, Death, and Abscess will be on the show, co-hosted by Joel Gustin. We moved this date, by the way. It was a Sunday. We moved it up a couple of days due to Chud's availability. The Chud show is now Wednesday, November 19th. I personally am very excited about this show. Harry G. Angus, the encyclopedia of Jerry Garcia music venues. I can't wait to have this guy on. Guy did a book the size of the Bible all about venues. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, Lori Dawn has brought John Bush into the fold. Armored Saint Anthrax in Category 7, Sunday, November 7th. Excited about that.
Yes, very.
Lori Dawn,
Awesome. Yep.
metal gal.
That's right. Those record store days.
Yep. What was the name of the record store you worked at out in Long Island?
It was Agents of Fortune. Previously the Wax Museum in Massapequa.
And John did a in-store.
They did 2 in-stores there, in fact. So I've got some fun pictures to show. Yeah.
Okay. I'm hosting by myself, Peter from Peter the Test Tube Babies. Rescheduled John Gallagher from Raven, December 21st. And then Lori Dawn. It's the Lori Dawn Show, co-hosted by Drew Stone with Candace. How do you pronounce Candace's last name?
Oh, my gosh. I don't know. I'm going to have to learn it if I'm co-hosting this show.
Cooksalian? Yeah.
We'll find out. It'll be our first question that we ask.
Yeah. And then Dave Ingram has been rescheduled. And then, I can't announce that one. Oh, no, I can't. So we'll wait.
What's going on there? Ooh.
They got to clear the flyer before I announce it. Okay. So that said.
But you saw it.
I don't know what people see,
Do the replay.
Nobody's,
Exciting.
People rewind it. That's happened on the show. People screenshot it and then I see it on social media. I'm like, fuck.
Oh, no.
Don't ever put anything on the show that you don't want out there. So oops.
Oh well.
That said, hey, great show we're doing. Let me do a little bit more with Steve.
Yep.
And we'll come on at the end and we'll talk about all the exciting stuff that's coming up. Okay.
Set up.
Talk to you in a bit.
All right.
Lori Dawn, ladies and gentlemen. Let's bring on our friend from the Dream Syndicate, Mr. Steve Wynn. Hey, man.
Hey, nice to be back.
Yeah. We're having a good time.
I'll look at the comments. I'm seeing we were never approached by SST, but definitely fans of what they were doing. But never.
I didn't see that. Okay. Pat Baldwin asks, were they approached by SST? Okay.
No, probably given the things I've heard about with the way Greg Ginn managed the label, maybe it was a good thing.
well, that kind of segues. That kind of, speaking of labels and label sort of drama, Medicine Show was on A&M. How did you guys? How did A&M come into your orbit? And how'd you end up on A&M?
Well, this gets the Sandy Pearlman part of the story. When we did that U2 tour, and with the momentum things kept getting better and things kept happening rapidly. It was kind of heady experience for better and worse because we're pretty young to be dealing with all that kind of stuff, But things were happening. We were on this U2 tour, and let's just say, without naming names, our tour manager, very good guy, was also I think his day job was dealing speed, and we partook a little bit at the time, kept us on the road, but he went on the U2 tour with us, and after the first show, kind of had a meltdown in New York and said I'm not going any further. I'm locked himself in the hotel.
Wait, how could that be? The guy's doing speed nonstop and he had a meltdown?
Yeah,
I find that hard to believe.
So, and I think he did that first U2 show. It was in New Haven. And I think he just went, I think maybe he might have thought, this is maybe a little more than I signed up. Because it was big. It wasn't playing Club Lingerie anymore. It's something you're playing, this big machinery, and you got to know how to deal with these people. So he said, I'm out of here. Well, all of a sudden we don't, I should mention, he was our tour manager and also our sound man. So we didn't have a sound man all of a sudden now. We couldn't, and so we got to scramble. Well, our manager at the time, he said, I'm friends with Sandy Pearlman, and he's coming to the show anyway at the Capitol Theater in Passaic. He can probably mix your sound. And now you know this. Normally, recording engineers don't do live sound, and live engineers don't do recording. But Sandy soldiered through and mixed our sound that night. And I knew.
Let me get this straight. He just walked in cold and did front of house?
Yes, he did.
Wow. God bless.
At the Capitol Theater for a band. He knew of us, actually. I found out later he was aware of the Dream Syndicate, liked our music, and he said, sure, I can do that. Turn up the guitars and whatever else. I knew who Sandy was because I loved not just give him enough rope, but the Dictators were a band I just loved. So, it was great. Fantastic,
and the Blue Oyster Cult and the Blue Oyster Cult stuff, which
I was not a big fan of them actually. Carl was though, but I was more of a Dictators Clash guy. But whatever, we were both like, great. We were all happy to have Sandy. Then we met him, nice guy. Let's file that away. So Sandy Pearlman saved our bacon. We got another tour manager, sound engineer to finish the tour with us. We ended up being okay. As things were moving along, when you're a band getting the kind of press we're getting and getting the hip band on the block kind of thing, and touring with U2, who's really taking off, people pay attention. Now, around this time, we loved being on Slash. I was a big fan of the staff. They're great people who worked so hard for us. But the person who was the general manager of the label was, let's say, not the nicest guy, a little bit of a heavy-handed guy. And he said, we want you to sign right now a 7-record deal with us, or we will put out your next record and kill it. He said that. He said, we will put out your next record and bury it unless you sign a 7-record deal. I said, we thought you were our friends. We thought you were cool. It was very hurtful. And we're not ready to sign a long-term deal like that. Well, around the same time, other labels were sniffing around, and A&M, Geffen, and EMI all really wanted to have the band on their label. And we thought, you know what? If you're going to threaten us that way, we're going to walk. And we did. And
you could walk.
We couldn't because it was a 2-record deal, but all 3 of those labels said, if you want to be on our label, we will buy you out of that deal. So we knew we could do that. We knew. I mean, it's ridiculous to think now that it was a thing where money is no object. Well, we were the band at that moment where these labels said, whatever it takes, we will do it. And they made him an offer they couldn't refuse, basically.
Wow.
And we were out of Slash and chose A&M. And they were the label that seemed like of the 3, the best one, because they were, in my mind, they were a label that was run by a musician, Herb Albert.
Well, Herb Albert, right?
And there's something very artistic about the label.
That's what the reputation that label always had. It was an artist-driven label, that cared. It wasn't an MC. It wasn't, what am I thinking of? MCA. It was.
Oh, yep. It was for real. I mean, they were based on the old Charlie Chaplin sound lot on La Brea and Sunset. And if you walked on the lot, you'd see that there's
I know it well.
La Brea. So you walked on the lot, it wasn't a big corporate building. It wasn't a skyscraper. It was little bungalows where people just hanging out. It was amazing. It was a great vibe.
Later on, I think Jim Henson owned it, and then it became a recording studio again. And I spent a lot of time there.
Jim Henson, I'm drinking out my Muppets coffee cup right now. As a matter of fact.
Fantastic. Did you?
They're the way we want to be with it. It made sense for us.
Yeah. This was the lineup at the time?
No. That was that's a little bit later. So the lineup at the time That's Dennis on the left, me looking
Mhm.
sinister there, Carl
Mhm.
on the right. That's Mark Walden. We'll get to him. That's our current bass player right now. But
Right.
we actually are filling kind of like, quick, we need a bass player fill in for the U2 tour was a guy named Dave Provost who had been in the Droogs and a band called the Textones, kind of known on the LA scene.
Right.
Great bass player, still around, great guy, great bass player. Learned enough to join the U2 tour, did another tour with us, and that's the guy we brought in the studio. And, he was the guy. So it was early lamp that is not. It was not photographed very much, and that's why I think there's maybe one photo in the box set of the reissue. But he
Sure.
was sort of the invisible member, only for about 6. He was only in the band for about 6 months.
Must have
But
been
we,
Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, Drew. What were you saying?
Must have been an exciting time to sign with A&M and coming off the U2 tour. And I mean, this is leading into a big REM tour. Must have been a really exciting time for the band, correct?
Yes and no. Of course, it was exciting because it was almost as the Dolls would say, too much too soon. I think it was kind of like looking back on it now. I think I almost wish things would have happened more slowly because there's so much.
Sure.
I don't even remember the feeling of this is wonderful, or this is exciting, or high-fiving each other, which we never would have done anyway. But
Yeah.
there was never that. It was more like, well, just one foot in front of the other because it's happening, and that's how we ended up with Sandy. Now, being on I think if we would have gone with one of the other labels, they probably would have told us, "You're going to work with this producer, do it this way."
Sure.
A&M was such a righteous label, almost to a fault, weirdly to say. They just let us do whatever we wanted to, and we said, "Well," they said, "Who do you want to produce your record?" And we said, "Well, Sandy Pearlman likes us. He's nice. We worked with him, and we know his stuff." And they said, "Okay, that's your guy," and that was that. And they
Sandy Berman likes us, and he did give him enough rope, right?
He was a known figure enough for them,
Sure.
and he was the only guy we could think. And we went, "Oh God, Go Girl Crazy sounds great. Give Enough Rope sounds great. The Blue Oyster Cult, he likes us. He knows us. We hit it off with him. That's our guy." They said, "Okay." They said, "Go make a record. We'll pay the bills." And they really did not do any bit of oversight with us at all. They just said, "You're the Dream Syndicate. Go be the Dream Syndicate," which was, you could say, is exciting and wonderful. It was maybe a little too much freedom for us. We didn't know what to do with that.
I understand.
Yeah.
Before we get into the actual making of the record, I quote from your book, which I really enjoyed. I quote, "At the time, I did not know the concept of recoupable expenses. I just thought the label pays for stuff, and we gratefully accept their generosity free of charge." And I chuckled at that because I've been there when I was managing bands, and we thought like all that. Oh, you're giving us like all this merch and the tour van and the music video. Like that's really wow. What a cool record label.
You must like us so much. You must really love us.
God.
Thank you. I'll send you a thank you card next week.
Oh, God, I love that record label. They're so good to us.
They're so good to us. They must really love us. And they did. I mean, in all fairness, I have nothing but good things to say about A&M. They were so supportive of the band, and they actually were encouraging of us being who we were. They just said, whatever you want to do, just do it. Unfortunately, and Sandy Pearlman is no longer with us, and I in the book I take him to task on a lot of things, but I take myself to task, and I take my band to task.
You play it down the line.
Yeah, but Sandy had a reputation, well deserved, and this will be verified and vouched for by Andy Chernoff of the Dictators, who's become a friend of mine, and Albert Bouchard of Blue Oyster Cult, who's become a friend of mine, and from interviews I've read with Mick Jones as well. Sandy took forever in the studio. Sandy believed in doing things over and over and over and over until, hey, look at that, there we go. I can see all that. Sandy was into doing takes over and over, and I think he believed that by almost like a Stockholm syndrome thing, like by beating you down, you would get to some kind of honest truth, which did happen. That's why the record sounds the way it does, but it was miserable to make because we just were, what are you doing to us? We spent, after making the Days of Wine and Roses in 3 days, this record took 5 months, and we couldn't figure out why. How can that even be possible? And Sandy, it was his way of doing stuff. And A&M, being kind of supportive of what we were doing, never said, "Hey, is something wrong there?" They said, they kept paying the bills, and it was a grueling experience that ended with a record I ended up liking, but I didn't like how I got there.
Yeah, I mean, just doing my homework, and I have it in my notes in caps. Hard record to make.
Hard record to make.
Hard
And
record to make.
And the process of that, I was a bit of a drinker going in. I became a very heavy drinker throughout that session due to boredom and frustration, and it drove me and Carl apart. That process kind of pushed a wedge between two very good friends who were very much on the same page, and exposed a difference between us. Because Carl's response to the success we were having, and it's a very reasonable response, was, "Look at what's happening. Let's go for it. Let's go for the brass ring. Let's make a hit record."
Sure.
No, I can't knock him for that. He wanted to make a big rock record. My response was, now we can finally make the weird record I've always wanted to make. I love records like Big Star Third and like Tonight's the Night by Neil Young. And I was a fan of every band's weird record.
Right.
Buzzcocks, a different kind of tension. The Who by Numbers. Every band had that one very emotional, broken record, and I immediately wanted to make that record. That didn't jive with Carl wanting to make a record that get played on the radio, and that difference between us was made more apparent with every day in the studio. And by the time the record was done, we had made a record that, weirdly enough, satisfied him because it was a big rock record, and satisfied me because it was a freaking weird record, but we were no longer friends.
I guess it kind of goes back to, like you said, if you had like a hands-on active A&R guy that was involved in the whole process, probably would have been steered a little bit, had a little more steerage to it, right?
I think you're right. And also bear in mind, I mentioned we made the record in San Francisco because that's where Sandy did all his work. So we were.
Where was that? Wally Hiders?
No, the Automat.
Oh, the Automat, right?
Where he did a lot of most of his stuff there. I think Given Enough Rope was made there as well. And so we were away from all our friends and away from all of our family and away from our favorite record stores and favorite bookstores and favorite this and that. Yep. And so we were sort of isolated out there, Sister Lovers. Yes, that's of course the original name of the record. But we were away from things we knew. So there was no touchstone. There was nothing to say, do you guys really want to be doing that? Or could you find some way to, there wasn't group therapy like in that Metallica movie. We couldn't sit down and we just kind of had to soldier through it.
Well, and didn't, after that sort of trudging that hard road, didn't you go right out with REM after that?
We did. So we finished the record, and I say on the one hand, because here we are talking about a reissue of the record, and a record that I'm touring behind right now. I'm playing live every night. The end result is we all love the record. I love the record. I thought we'd done something really special, and it was received well. And once it came out, A&M supported it fully. There it is, Medicine Show. That's the new version.
That's the new version. Yeah,
it's like a 4 CD expanded version of the record remastered. And with one thing I'll say about the box set, just stepping out of to the time sequences. Pat Thomas, who is our friend, sort of A&R guy, quasi manager. This box set is his labor of love, and what he did with this box set, there's a lot of live material and rehearsal material.
Yeah.
From the time between Days of Wine and Roses and Medicine Show that shows how he progresses the band. And
Kendra plays on some of it, right?
Some of it. Kendra's on some of it.
Yep.
There's a live show from CBGB's right after we had first got our new bass player. So it was so the rough journey was worth it because we end up with thank you, Long Brain. We end up with a record that we quite liked, and we're excited to go out and support. Even if we were no longer the best of friends, we were happy to go out on the road and support it. And I had met Peter Buck in the course of making this record when REM played San Francisco, and we hit it off immediately. And I thought that's, they just put out their second record, Reckoning, on IRS, who was kind of a subsidiary of A&M. So it was a natural combo. And we went on tour for 8 weeks with REM. Like, wow, perfect. Now, when it came time, this is deja vu after the U2 thing where Kendra quits a week before that tour. We get the tour with REM, and Dave Provost quits the band a
Mm.
week before the tour. Like, you got to be kidding me. This is what is it with us and bass players here? And so we got this big tour, and Carl said, "Well, I know this guy. His name is Mark Walden. He's a nice guy. He learns fast. I can call him up." I said, "Great." And Mark was in the band, and that picture you showed is Mark joined the band, learned the songs, and got in the tour bus, and off he went with REM. And we still playing together to this day. I mean, the three guys on the left, Dennis, me, and Mark, just played San Diego 3 nights ago. We're still the core of the band with Jason Victor replacing Carl. But we were out with REM doing this thing every night, and there's a live recording from that tour that's on this box set. And we were a very different band than we had been the year before, and it's very different from REM, but their audience liked us, so it was great.
Is that the Chicago concert, 1984?
Yes.
WXR. Yeah. Yeah.
XRT broadcast.
Yeah.
From a really great night. We played our show with REM. Typical 8 o'clock show being what do you call it? It wasn't an arena, theater, whatever theater, I guess you'd say. So earlier show, REM's show that night ended up as a live record. Ours was a live record, and then after the show was over, we immediately, the two bands, all the members of REM and the Dream Syndicate, took off to the Cubby Bear downtown, where the Replacements were playing with the Del Fuegos opening.
Oh,
this
wow.
is like, in my mind, it's like one of the best rock and roll nights ever. Like,
Sure.
This is just like, and we were there watching these two great bands, Replacement Del Fuegos, and we felt like we were the Beatles and the Stones. So we were like, we were
That's great.
Brian Jones and John Lennon showing up. And I say this with tongue in cheek, but it just felt
Of course.
But we were riding high and checking out these two bands who were, Replacements and Del Fuegos, two great bands.
Del Fuegos were a fun band.
They were a really fun band.
I saw them very early on. I went to Emerson College in Boston in 1981 to study acting, and I was up there early on, and I saw the Del Fuegos and the Neighborhoods and the Outlets, and a lot of those bands were great. In addition to all the hardcore stuff I get into, but those bands were around. Another some other of the live stuff, which is really interesting on the box set, is stuff recorded at CBGB's.
So there's a show from maybe spring of '83 between our first and second album from CB's, and we did 2 nights there. And I didn't even know that existed. That's what I
was getting at.
Yeah.
Like, did you know all this stuff was out there?
No. Pat, who put this together, went hunting around for any documents he could find, and he found this live recording. Now, Drew, because you've spent many nights at CBGB's, I'm sure, that besides being kind of a funky little place to say the least, they had the best sound system in town. I mean, it was the best sounding club, and you could walk out of CB's with an amazing cassette of the show you just played. You sound like a record. There it is.
Yeah, that's it empty. But that's it.
The backstage right behind that wall where you could feel the vibration of every band that was playing. And the display went down the stairs of like, oh my God, you'd catch whatever typhoid might be raging around. But it was, besides a historic place, history not being lost on us, it also was a great sounding room. And this recording we have on the box set sounds fantastic. And I just had no idea it was floating around.
Here is, I think this might be a couple years later, but this certainly speaks to vernacular here. Here you go. That's the soundboard at CB's.
Oh, wow. That's great.
There it is,
What is going on back there? What kind of gear is, it looks like they got an Atari game back there.
Yeah, it looks like one of the I think this is like 1990 or 91 maybe. Yeah. So it's a little bit later, but this was basically what was going on. And CBGB's was notorious for.
I remember that bench. I remember that bench by the soundboard. I lounged on that bench many nights.
Yeah, right. So the record comes out. You tour. Things kind of play out. You do the live. This is not the new Dream Syndicate album live, which is on A&M as well. and then
Mhm.
you leave the label after that. And what I'm getting is, I know that getting this box set done was a long, hard road. How did you get the material back to be able to release it all these years
Oh,
later?
oh my. Oh, yeah. By the way, Christopher Valdez says the Replacements Cubby Bear show is getting released. I had no idea. That's great because
Is that
really
right?
was a yeah.
This
That was
month?
that. Was,
This
I'm really
month?
happy to see that. I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah.
I was there. That was a fun
Yeah.
night. I
Yeah.
got to talk to my buddies about that. I just saw Mike Mills last night. I'll tell him that show. Anyway, yeah. So we
What was that?
you know,
What was that? What was that like?
that show or
No.
okay.
How did you
Awesome.
get the music back
Okay.
after all these years?
Well, it did come out. We Carl and I split apart. We stayed on A&M for a little while longer, and they just wanted us to make demo after demo, and they were nice, but they're kind of like, we just want to make a record and get back on the road, and we amicably split. They just let us go, and actually gave us money to go away. It's like, yay, that's great. But unfortunately, over time, the record went out of print because A&M got swallowed up by, this company, that company, eventually owned by a beer company, Bertelsmann. I mean, A&M was no longer a music. They were just a holding company for people money. And the sad thing was the record went out of print, which broke my heart. And for the longest time, I tried to get it back. I approached them. I, was at the various points had pretty high-powered managers, so I was sick on them. And my thing was always, I don't care if I get it back. I don't care if I get any money. I don't care if I screw myself over. I just want it out there. And it wasn't working. They wouldn't reissue it. They wouldn't give it back. And it's like, oh my God. Well, finally about 7-8 years ago, goodbye A&M, I know. Finally, about 7 years ago, a legal team, well, I'll backtrack a little bit, and you probably know about this. There has been, and lately more enforced, a 35-year reversion law, where after 35 years, you get your records back. It's the law. Labels have to abide by it. Boom, give it back. In 2019, in 2019, Medicine Show turned 35, and we said, "Thank you very much. We'll take that back and go to have a ball." And A&M's, or not A&M, but whatever they were, UMG, Universal.
Yeah, Universal. The heinous Universal Music Group.
I'm sorry, but I got to agree with that because they, as much as I love A&M, I did not love Universal. Basically said not just to the Dream Syndicate, but to a lot of other bands, the Dickies among them, and then the Dickies and a bunch of bands. They said, no, we don't abide by this. We're not going to do it. Sorry. Oh. And so there was a giant class action lawsuit that spanned the pandemic. It was all happening during the pandemic. Wow. And I mean, this was like a lot. I was brought in. They kind of embraced me as one of the star witnesses, I guess, because I could talk a good game. They brought me to this office in Midtown Manhattan, like one of those 54th and 50th floor kind of place, and they put me on a screen for 4 hours. And they coached me. It was insane. I mean, you came. Here we go. Make sure you file on time. That's right, Thomas, because it's not automatic. You got to have people to help you.
And then, like you said, they can still fight it.
They can still fight it. So we have had help, like Thomas says, who we've had people like thanks to Dan Perloff and Evan Stone, people who would guide us through. Well, this lawsuit went on for 5 years, and finally 2 years ago, it was settled, and it was a huge settlement. I don't know how much, maybe nearly $1 million. I don't even know the final thing, but the shot is we got, of all that money, we got $10,000. That's very nice. And the record. So that was the main thing. We got the record. I said, oh, thank God. And part of the stipulation, boy, I rarely talk so much about music biz, but it does fit the story here. But part of the stipulation was it had to be on my label. Like they said, you can't go sell this to another label. I don't know why that was part of the deal, but that's how it went. I said, fine. I had a label back then called Down There. Down There, we'll put it out, and I did. And we are on for our newer records. So we've made 4 albums in the last 7 years. Our more recent catalog has been first on Anti and now on Fire Records out of the UK. So Fire signed on as the distributor for Down There, which is kind of funny, but they were happy to do it. So it is a Down There record, and it's a beautiful full circle kind of thing. And we got it back, and it's our record now, and it's such a tangled thing. But the bonus tracks for the box set are streaming, but the original record is not, because we couldn't. They would not let us do that.
Is that
So
right?
you got. If you want to hear the actual Medicine Show, you got to buy the CD or the LP or the digital download. I'm sorry, folks, but if you want to hear this record that means so much to us, you got to go through the process on our Bandcamp page or however you want to do it.
So in doing my homework, I'm going to Spotify. I'm trying to find. I'm finding the record, but I'm not finding the studio tracks, and I'm like really confused. So I reached out to your PR guy that hooked us up, who's been really great. He's fantastic. Josh Mills, fantastic. Really great guy. Really doing good work. And he sent me the tracks so I could listen to them, and I've been listening to them nonstop. But yeah, really interesting how they wouldn't let you put it up for streaming, but everything else on the box set is up.
Yeah, we're working on that. Hopefully, we'll get to change.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I've seen a few people online grouse about, "Hey, I can't stream the record." I said, "You know what? We spent 5 months making it, made ourselves crazy, spent 30 years getting it back, sat in legal things. Go buy the damn record."
Sure, right.
Come to a show, and we'll sign them for you. It's like, I am very. Everybody who knows me knows I am completely fan driven. I'm all about people who like my music getting a good deal, getting the music, playing the best shows I can, making the best records I can, making sure they get treated well at the shows. It's always been a big deal to me. But at the same time, I was like, well, you know what? Get the record. It's a good record, or come see us live and hear it live. And it's been good. People very, very supportive, and I can't believe we got this record back. It amazes me this even happened.
The art has been liberated.
The art has been liberated.
I mean, and that's really where it's at. That is just it's in the hands, and it's out there for people that love it to listen to it and cherish it. And that's the most important thing.
Well, it is, because we're music fans first, aren't we?
That's right.
You and I have done many different things, and here we are talking. But we all began as people who love music, and I know the frustration I get when a record I love is impossible to find. Now, there is the thrill of the hunt. We all know that, but at the same time, you want to hear the records you love. It drives. I'm a big fan of Moby Grape. I know that and you can't. And it's hard to get the records now. Amazing, and try finding the records. It's not easy. It shouldn't be that way. They're one of the best bands of all time. So
that Moby Grape record with 905.
Get out of town.
That record is really. Oof.
Yeah.
I mean, to veer off a little bit, I'm assuming you're a big fan of that real early San Francisco psychedelic stuff, Moby Grape, and Charlatans, and Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah, one of my main guitar heroes is John Cipollina.
Come on now.
I love. When I heard the way he played, I just said, this is just everything I love in guitar. I don't even always love Quicksilver, because some of the songs, better than others, but his playing, even on the worst song, is mind blowing.
I like that the first Quicksilver record.
Sure. Yeah. That one's perfect. That one is great.
Yeah. They sort of with Nicky Hopkins, they sort of went a little bit, but great stuff. Yeah, Shady Grove and all, great stuff. I mean, I'm a big fan of all those bands in the early San Francisco early psychedelic stuff, and the Grateful Dead and all that. Hey, let me take a quick sponsor break this time, and we'll come back and we'll take some questions from around the world, okay?
Oh, great, fantastic.
All right, here we go. That's right, this is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and our guest today is Steve Wynn of the Dream Syndicate, and we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of Medicine Show. And we are sponsored by blah, 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 and the Texas Silver Rush. They're a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in working with musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as to style them for stage, album covers, promo photos, and social media exposure. Their client list includes Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Greg Ridley, Ringo Starr, and of course, Agnostic Front. Information on online sales will be taken at their Facebook and Instagram pages, and of course, www.thetexassilverrush.com. Last but certainly not least, She Devil Coven is a female-owned entrepreneur business based out of the Constitution State of Connecticut. Owner Rachel King Keys handcrafts soy wax candles set with intentions for your sanctuaries. She's accomplished a life goal dream since beauty school, debuting her artist showcase Heidi's and Hellions that features live bands, burlesque, sideshow acts, vendors, food trucks, and this year, a live auction with all proceeds going to mental health program Punk Rock Saves Lives. Catch her in the tri-state area doing her thing, slinging candles at events, and keep an eye out for her. Coming to New York in the spring of 2026. You can find her on Etsy and on Instagram. Questions for our guest? Please go deep, get weird, post your questions. Don't be shy. Let them fly. Post them up. Let it go. In the meantime, I just want to mention. Hey, Lori.
Yes.
Yes. You know what? We'll go through. How about we go through all this at our leisure when Steve signs off? We'll go because we got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and we'll talk about all this.
Yes.
All right. I'll see you in a bit.
Okay, sounds good.
That's right. Hey, questions. What are you doing? Let's go. Make me come over there and smack you around. All right. Let me see. There you go. Here we go. Let's bring our good friend Steve Wynn on. Put you back over there.
Hey there. Yeah.
Let's start. Hey, Francis. Thank you, dear. What's the best way to buy Steve's book?
It's probably, it could be your local favorite bookstore. I prefer you get it from my Bandcamp page. Look up Steve Wynn Bandcamp, or even through the Dream Syndicate. It's up there, so that's a direct way. And if you do it through my Bandcamp site, which I don't have the link handy, but it should be easy to find. Just put in my name. If you do it there, I will sign it for you and ship it off. So that's a great way to get the book, and it's also at your all cool bookstores and online. But there's that. You can get the Medicine Show from there as well. So it tells a lot of the stories I've told here today, but a lot more too.
Was doing the book did you enjoy the process of doing it, and did it happen? I know sometimes, I'm speaking from, I'm trying to get a book done. It's taking forever. Was it something that was ongoing, or were you or as a proficient writer, were you able to bang it out relatively swiftly?
Well, I always wanted to do a book, but I tour all the time, so I just never got around it. And I'm not the kind of person who can write in the backseat of a van or whatever. But but the pandemic happened, and when the pandemic happened, we all had to find things to do. So I said, I'm going to try writing this book. It came really easily. I'm a very fast typist because of my sports writing days, and we had stories to tell, and I just knocked it out. It was exciting just to do it, and that it flowed so easily and so naturally, and I had so much fun doing it. And then I, thought, okay, let's see if anybody wants to put it out. And very fortunate, the first place we went was a company called Jawbone in the UK. Who have a great catalog of books. Their catalog is just fantastic, the stuff put out. And they said yes, that was that. It was really great. So now now that I'm over the hump of that, I want to do a new one. So I'm writing a new book early next year, and the follow-up to this one.
Good. Ray Hogan asks, how did the name of the Dream Syndicate come about?
Well, the story, Drew. It's like finding a band name is the hardest thing. You just and the harder you try and the longer you wait, the worse everything sounds. And we actually, for your Big Star fans there, I wanted to call the band Big Black Car. And by the way, there was no Big Black or Big Car. That was bands later on at the time.
Sure, that was later. Big Black.
Big Black Cars. Big Black Cars is a song. Sister Lovers and Big Star third. But anyway, we were going back and forth, and Dennis Duck had a record called Outside the Dream Syndicate by Tony Conrad, who had been in Faust. And Dennis said, what about the Dream Syndicate, like on this record title? He said, whatever, fine. You're the old guy, you're the veteran. We'll just done. Dream Syndicate we are. We didn't know at the time that the Dream Syndicate was the original name or the name of the band that preceded the Velvet Underground. It was John Cale's band with Lamont Young and Tony Conrad before the Velvets. We had no idea. So here we are being compared to the Velvet Underground, and people thinking, oh, you even went and ripped off their name, but we had no idea. So was a pure accident. We met Tony Conrad later on, shaking in our boots, thinking he was going to sue us or cease and desist. And the very kind Tony Conrad said, "I'm very happy you guys are keeping the name going. Good luck to you." Like, dude.
I'm not. Let's try this. Hey, Steve, do you have anything to do with that Top Jimmy and the Rhythm Pigs reissue coming out soon?
Yes, I do. I just got it in the mail today. I'm so proud of that. That I on my label down there, we put out a handful of records in the '80s, just bands I loved. I was the DJ at Cathay de Grand, where Top Jimmy played all the time, and I just loved that band. And when I finally got a little bit of notoriety and a record label, I went to the band and said, "Why do you guys have nothing out?" And Gil T, the bass player, so we had this one session we did with Steve Berlin. I said, "Can I put it out?" And I said, "Yeah." So I put out the only record by Top Jimmy back in '87.
Wow.
And it's been out of print ever since, because records do that. And they came to me and said, "What do we need to do to get the record back?" And I said, "You need to do nothing. It's yours. It's your music. Take it."
Yeah.
So I just said, put my name put my name in the package somewhere and I'll be happy. And they put it out, and it's amazing. I have it not far from where I'm sitting right now, and
That's great.
Couldn't be happier.
Good question, Chris Valdez. Thank you. That's
You see me smiling how happy I'm about that. It just
that's
made my day when I got that in the mail.
Yeah, that's good. Pat, what's up, Pat? Are there any musicians that you were surprised to learn that you influenced? I know the Black Crowes were fans.
They were over time, a lot of bands have, picked up on what we're doing, and bands became friends. Like Yola Tango was an early one. I met Ira in Georgia at a mutual friend's house over dinner back in '82, and they had a band called Georgia and Those Guys, and they gave me their cassette, and they were covering Days of Wine and Roses on their cassette. I went, wow, that's great. So, when they started doing their band, I would go see them all the time, and we're still good friends. Black Crowes apparently formed while watching the Dream Syndicate play at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, opening for REM. They saw our set. Chris and Rich Robinson and Steve Gorman saw our set and said, "We should do a band," and they did. So, Luna covered one of our songs coming out of Galaxy 500. Were big fans, and so I'm never surprised, because I think we're a good band. But the one thing that's kind of gratifying is every band that I hear was inspired by the music we did is a band I like as a fan as well. So it shows we're all drinking from the same water. Like I have all the bands I just mentioned are bands I quite like. So if maybe some band I hated said I was inspired by your music, I might think, oh, you weren't listening properly, I guess. But no, that's never happened.
Cool. You're getting out there on the road and playing Medicine Show in its entirety. I know you already did a couple of dates here in the States. You're going back out. I know there's something in between, and I'll put that up where you're going out solo, and then you're going to Europe. What was it like revisiting some of this material? I'm assuming some of this material you have not played in a very long time.
It's funny. I actually have played all these songs regularly throughout the years as a solo artist and the Dream Syndicate. So I'd like to say, oh, these are songs never performed before. No, right. I continued to play these Medicine Show songs through the years of the Dream Syndicate, through my solo bands, through side projects. They really all kept going. But I've never had gone out with the Dream Syndicate on tour playing the whole album as an album. That's what's really happening for me now. I gotta say, the thing is, like, it's just being surprised. You'd think, well, then it should be no surprise, because I have played them live. But it is, because I find we really inhabit who we were in 1984 when we play this set. We do it. We come out for the first set. We do newer songs, take a break, and it's almost like we, I don't know, take on a bit of an attitude in a good way. It's like, okay, let's not just be dilettantes. Let's go for this thing. And that's a pretty dangerous little set we're playing every night.
Hey, personal question. I see you going out in Europe. Are there any places that any like bastions of like dreams in, like places you look at and like, oh man, we're going back over here again, and they love us there? Are there any places in Europe that really, really have taken to not just the Dream Syndicate, but to you as an artist through the years, and you just love going back there at any chance?
Well, Europe in general. I mean, Europe has always been better for me than the States is fine, and I love playing the States, and fortunately have really good fans here for all my projects. I mean, Europe's been the promised land for me from the beginning. I mean,
That's
will
awesome.
be over. Italy is great. Norway is great. They're all really good for us. So that it's amazing how much, even through lean years, which any musician has, where you think like, oh, I'm a has-been, whatever. Europe has never faded away. So
That's great.
thanks to everybody over there.
That's great. And in between the Dream Syndicate, you're doing what you're calling a house concert tour. Could you explain what this is a little bit?
Yeah, I'm sure you've had other people on who do this kind of thing. I started doing this about 5 years ago, and they've actually more than like 10 years ago. It's become kind of a different way of touring that I really like, where they are literally, for those who don't know, it's sort of privately booked by people who, often in places, you look at this list, there are big cities, but also some smaller towns, just by people who want to bring artists. It's almost like the old-fashioned salon show that would happen in in medieval times. They just people with homes who want to bring music to their friends and their community, and they're so much fun. I just pull into the driveway, play a smattering of my songs, tell a few stories, and off I go.
Is this just you kind of walking in Chuck Berry style with your guitar? Is this you and your guitar? Is that what it kind of?
Yeah, less mercenary and more friendly, but yes, like that.
Yeah.
I walk in with the guitar. I walk in with the guitar. Walking with the guitar is, you interact with the people in the home. It's like we're just like hanging out for a couple hours, and I can recommend them. If you come see me, and you can get tickets on Eventbrite, who is a website dedicated to this sort of thing. Go on eventbrite.com and look up my name. A lot of people are doing them these days. You'd be amazed all the musicians. I think once you start doing them, you get really into it. They're wonderful.
I saw Jorma Kaukonen was doing a couple of them recently.
Oh wow, no kidding.
Yeah.
There you go. You can go to someone's house and see Jorma Kaukonen in the living room playing Airplane and Hot Tuna songs. Get out! You got to be kidding. That's amazing.
I have in my notes one of my questions. Secret of longevity, and I think throughout this whole show, you've just really addressed that. You just care about your people that love your music, and I think first and foremost, you're a music lover, and I think that just comes through. Through the years, I think it's not much of a secret, but you just love what you do.
I do. I still love playing. I still, love everything that goes with the touring. I love the camaraderie of the friends. My bandmates are my best friends. And on top of that, I'm still a music fanatic. I still love the feeling you can get when you hear a new record that you didn't know existed, that just blows your mind, and you're like that 10-year-old kid all over again. Still love that.
That's awesome. We'll do a couple more.
I see some great ones over there. Crazy spill we ever found ourselves on. Oh my God, I don't know. There's some wild ones over the years.
Okay, crazy spill you found yourself on.
Man, that's such a. And you do over the years. I mean, we did a show in Italy with Primus, and they opened for me because I'm pretty popular, and they were very resentful. Because they said, we shouldn't be opening for this guy. I was like, well, I'm sorry, you are. Off the top of my head, Primus was a weird one. Not too many, actually. But let's see. Any Darby stories? I told the good story about
John Coletti, Anthrax, Connecticut represent. Any stories of Darby and Pat Smear high school stories? Any other rock people? Any other rock people at that school? We mentioned this early on, but yeah.
In those years, no. Soon after Tone Loc, so that's so.
And David Cassidy, right before you.
David Cassidy, and like I say, at least John Densmore, maybe another member, maybe Robbie Krieger also. And really, if you look up a university high school on Wikipedia, it will blow your mind. The people in there.
It's like Hollywood High School is another one. You look at
Hollywood, right, exactly. And those are both public schools. We're not talking like private. Fancy schools, public schools. God, I love all these questions.
Is the rumor true that you were the inspiration for the Bangles song "Hero Takes a Fall"?
The rumor is true. The rumor is true. And we in fact covered the song on a record 5 years ago with Vicky and Debbie doing backing vocals. No, just Vicky doing backing vocals. So we're all friends now. But there was a period where maybe they thought maybe I got a little too big for my britches, and they had
Right.
a little fun with that.
Oh, that's great.
Good song, by the way. I'm very flattered.
Alan, Pascal on the Perimeter is a beautiful song. Do you know if REM were listening to the Braves game as those events unfolded?
That's very nice of you to say that. I like that song by the Baseball Project about Pascal Perez of the Braves and the thing that went down. And my wife, Linda Pittman, sings lead on that song.
Mm-hmm.
I quite like that. I love playing it, and I'm proud of that. Well, Mike Mills is a huge baseball fan. We're in the Baseball Project. We walk the walk, talk the talk. We love baseball. Sure. Mike is a monster baseball fan, and like I said, I saw him play last night with his new band, How wonderful. But I wrote the song, as you, Alan, you might be able to tell from listening to it. I intentionally tried to write an REM song they might have written in 1982, and according to them, I got pretty close to a couple. Maybe, fortunately, they're not going to sue me. But I wanted to write an REM because I wanted to write a song imagining Mike driving to a gig and hearing about this game. And we don't have time to go into what the song is about, but I really tried to write the song from Mike's perspective as he drove to a gig with REM. So it was good method acting.
I just put, hold on. I just put it in my calendar. You're playing New York on December 11th. I got to come down.
Yeah.
Oh, you're playing Poussin. Yeah. You're playing Poussin Rouge. I got to come down and see you, man.
Please do. Yeah, great venue. We're excited about that.
Yeah, it's a cool. My cousin just played there. It's a good spot. Let's see. As we head towards the home stretch, let's see what else.
Baseball Project. Yeah, how we get together.
Yeah, we mentioned the Baseball Project. With Mike and Peter Buck and Linda, and how did the Baseball Project get together, and whose idea was it?
It's kind of crazy. We just Scott McCoy of he's Young Fresh Fellows and -5 and a lot of and REM. He played in REM for 20 years. Scott and I had never really met before. When REM got inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2017, they had a huge party at Del Posto. You might know there was a great restaurant downtown. They had a big party there, lavish, put on the dog. And Scott and I met there for the first time, ended up talking about music and baseball. And we both kind of realized we both had the idea of making a record about baseball someday. It's someday I got to do this. And once we realized we each had planned that, we said, let's do it. Let's do it together. So we did. Yeah. And he recruited Peter because that's his main, his main collaborator. And I recruited Linda because she's my main everything and collaborator as well. And we went in the studio to make this, as often happens, a record we didn't think was going to go anywhere. We figured we'll record these songs, press 500 copies.
You did it for yourself. You did it. We're doing it.
Yeah. Who's going to want to hear musicians singing about baseball? But let's do it just because we have to get this out of our system. And here we are, 20 years later, still making records and touring. Go figure.
Yeah. Do you? I know. I know the Baseball Project played the Bob Dylan Center in 2024. Do you get a chance to get out and play with the Baseball Project often?
Yeah, we tour at least once a year. We just did a long tour in September. We played White Eagle Hall here in New York area. We did a 20-city tour. We get out as much as we can. Everybody in the band is in about 5 other bands. So when we can get together, we do tours because we are very good. On top of being a band, we're very good friends. So we have a good time getting out there.
Isn't it great being in a band with people you love?
It wasn't always the case, as we all know, when you're younger and you go through all that stuff. But when when the pandemic hit, and we were all kind of isolated, and especially in New York, as you know, we were more than a lot of other places. I realized all the people I communicated with were either family, my mom, my siblings, or my bandmates. Yeah. The people I stayed in touch with and would Zoom every day or whatever were people I spent time in bands. Back when you know this, Drew. When you're in a band, you were with each other within within a foot of each other for months at a time. You're backstage or in the van or on stage or in a hotel lobby. You're together all the time. And if you can make it through that without killing each other, you're band of brothers, your family.
And it's like you said, I mean, not on the scale that you've done, but I've been in bands. I'm in a band now, and it wasn't always like this. And now I'm in a band with guys that I really enjoy spending time with them and being around them. And it wasn't always like that. And
No.
it's really great. Thomas says the Reunion Dream Syndicate albums are incredible. Check out the new music by them too. So absolutely.
That stuff is all streaming. So knock yourself out. It's up there. We're very proud. With this whole crazy story we've talked about in the last couple hours. When we reunited a dozen years ago with Jason Victor on guitar, Jason's a New York mainstay. He is a Queens native who worked at the Great Venus Records and has been my bandmate for 25 years.
Wow.
One of the best guitarists on the planet. And he has been the new guy now for 13 years.
Right.
We made 4 records in the last 7 years that I think are up there with what we did back then, and we love getting out there and playing them. So that's what we're doing right now. We're on tour, playing the new stuff for one set, taking a break, and the medicine show, and then a smattering whatever else strikes our fancy.
Yeah. And the Dream Syndicate Medicine Show 40th Anniversary Expanded Edition is out now. It is four discs. 29 previously unreleased tracks, in addition to just the incredible record available all these years later. It is really fantastic. I really, really, really enjoyed doing my homework this week and listening to this stuff all these years later. I want to thank you for coming on. Is there anybody you want to thank? Is there anybody you want to shout out?
Well, I want to thank my bandmates because I've been the Dream Syndicate is just the greatest thing. So Dennis and Mark and Jason and Chris Kakovas and we have Josh Cantor playing organ with us on the East Coast. Love my bandmates, and Linda, who's in the other room, patiently waiting for me to go make some dinner now. So with my wife, Linda Pittman. But I got to thank Pat Thomas, from my buddy, who put this whole thing together and put so much time and effort into this box set. Man, with the time he spent, the work he put in is amazing. So thank you.
He did a great job. He really did a great job with it. Yep.
And you've got a lot of fans out there, and people were very impressed I was going to be on your show. So thanks for having me on.
Well, my pleasure, and I do it. I love it, and it's what we do. Like Hyman Roth says in The Godfather, "This is the life we chose. This is the life we chose."
Man, that's not too far off the mark.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. I'll be in touch. I'll reach out. I want to come down and see you play, and looking forward to it.
Great. Oh, that's gonna be great. See you at Le Poisson Rouge.
Okay. Take care. Good night.
You too. Bye, Drew.
Bye. There you have it. Another one in the books. Let's bring our friend Lori Dawn on. Hey.
That was a good one.
He's fantastic. What a great guy.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for him as an artist. The guy has it in his heart, man. And that's what's up.
Absolutely.
He's been in the game so long, and hey, Chris Valdez, thanks for everybody being so interactive here and asking some really good questions and making our guests feel at home. And that's what's up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What did you
good today?
Yeah, it was great, man. I needed it. I needed a good show like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you send me? You sent me.
So I sent you.
Should I just randomly put these up?
Randomly put it up.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what they are. So Women of the Pit, as you all know, we're doing a coat drive, at the Barry Electric, but there's also going to be people collecting coats for us here in New Windsor, New York, which is like somewhere between New York and Poughkeepsie. This is Outside a Magazine, great group of women who put out a zine. They also put on shows. And this is going to be a really, really killer show here. God's Favorite, Paranoid Man, Gas.
Where is this? At the Veterans Center.
Yes. So, and they're going to be collecting coats for us. up there. So go on out there, bring some coats.
Is there a plan with the coats this year? Is Larry Kelly going to live with them in his van for like a couple?
That only happens because the coat drive last year was so close to Christmas that we collected all the coats, and then the woman was like, "Oh, we're on vacation for 2 weeks." Okay, so So Larry did drive around with them for 2 weeks, trying them all on, sleeping on them. No, I'm just kidding. And but we did eventually get them to Patterson and Oasis. This year we're going to several shelters: New Jersey, New York, Long Island, Boston. This is another coat drive being held on December 12th, right before ours, and it's being organized by JoJo and Sonic Bomb. So she approached me and said, "I'm collecting coats already, and I want to do a coat drive." So I said, "Let's go for it." So I'm going to be here on the Friday night. Butterbrain, Sonic Bomb. I don't know how to say that band. I can't really read it.
Cuidado?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. At the Middle East, a venue I have never played.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, you're gonna have
although I think we're getting booked in there, or so I'm told.
Awesome.
So that
so
should be happy.
We've got 3 drives going on this year, and it's really an amazing thing.
Yeah. So. On another note, what is this? Is this a week from Saturday?
Week from Saturday, yes. Holiday Hardcore donation drive. So
yep. We, Incendiary Device, along with Larry Kelly and Lori Dawn and people, Women of the Pit, we are all going to be up at Cherry Street Station in the jewel of Connecticut, Wallingford. The jewel of the Constitution State, Wallingford, with our friend Layla, Concrete Ties, Glorious Wounds, Cooked Alive, and Eucharist.
For all you non-Jews out there.
Yeah, Eucharist. So yeah, we got this. You know, if you're up there, I know Ray Hogan, you'll be there. I know we got some friends in Connecticut. ID will be back at the Cherry Street State. Go easy on Connecticut.
What did we say? It's beautiful.
Yeah,
I love it.
Wallingford. Steven's playing December 5th with Serial Poets at the Bridge and Tunnel Brewery in Ridgewood, New York. Isn't the Bridge and Tunnel Brewery in Queens, in Ridgewood, Queens?
Yes.
So why is this Ridgewood, New York? I guess it is Ridgewood, New York. What are you, embarrassed to put Queens on the flyer?
It throws me off every time. I'm like, where is that? It's like Queens.
Yeah. Larry says the biggie this Saturday. What's this Saturday?
Okay. So this Saturday we have our art market, our Small Works art market. And I have a little preview here because Elisa met Mike Gallo at the Dairy Queen between their houses. I don't know.
Meet me at the Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen. And he dropped off some of his artwork that's going to be on display. So I have it right here. Look at this.
Oh, the agnostic front saw.
The agnostic front saw could be yours for the low price. I don't know how much it is yet, but this is hurting my fingers right now. This is a real saw. And it's really, really cool. It's got his name right there. It's very shiny and epoxied and everything. So
it makes me want to put my Vinny Stigma hat on.
Yes, we'll have to come on out to Bridge 9 Records.
Man, I want to get up there. I want to get up there for this because
it also has some some agnostic front.
Wow, look at that.
Agnostic front pizza.
You know,
it's really nice. I mean,
Mike Gallo's art, it's like pop art, right?
Yes, yeah. You know, he cuts these shapes out and paints them up, and it's really, really nice. Look at that.
Yep.
It's all shiny and glittery and everything, and then he puts epoxy over it. This is some cool metal pieces up here.
He's definitely refined his craft.
Oh yeah. Oh
He's
yeah.
really good.
This is a really beautiful piece. Solid wood piece. I like that. So, and he's got some other pieces too. And then I have some pieces, some new pieces, my little ceramic pieces.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. I'll have a bunch of these up there. And we've also got Chris, Robots Will Kill, with some of his small works, Dave Tree, and we've got She Devil Coven Candles.
Oh, so what,
there as well, our sponsor.
you know what the fuck am I doing Saturday, November 15th? I got to get my ass up there. All my people are up there.
Yeah, all your people are up there.
Saturday, you know what I'm doing Saturday, November 15th?
I don't know what you're doing.
Nothing's on the calendar.
There you go. You got to come up. So Jeff Howlett, Tintype Portraits, he does these, he does this photography, and then I don't even know how it works, but you have to just look it up. Jeff Howlett. He takes these photographs, and they look like old-timey, very dramatic and beautiful. Yeah. Definitely worth it. The portraits are gorgeous.
Absolutely. He does really really cool shit. Wow, look at all my people up there. Chris, Robots Will Kill, Gallo, Dave Tree, you, Fuzz. Which Fuzz is this? Is that not Fuzz from Albany?
Fuzz it is.
Is that Fuzz from Albany? Rachel from She Devils.
Yes. Dead Wax Revival, Pyre.
Jeff. Yep.
Mary Johnson, Crazy J. So yeah, it's going to be.
You know what the problem is? You know what the problem is for me? This is the next day.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like, if I'm up here doing this.
Well, it's from 11 to 5.
Oh, that's in your favor.
Yeah, you can be home by 9. So it's going to be a good one. And it's in conjunction with the Downtown Beverly Art Crawl. So there's going to be a lot of artists and art around.
Hey, Larry, can I do the show in the basement of Bridge 9 on Sunday? I've done it before.
I know.
Okay, we talked about this. We talked about this. Of course, we talked about the big holiday slamboree Sunday, December 15th. We have announced the My War singers, including R.B. Corbett from Even Worse, Cindy Halfrats from Lunatics, Davey Gunner from Kraut, so on and so forth. Steve Hansgen from Minor Threat, Ryan Bland from Ache, Springer and Jamie from SSD, the Hellcat, Rochelle Lynn Stone, the whole gang. And then, of course, it's the Coat Drive, Sworn Enemy, Brass Knuckle Brigade, Nailed to the Cross featuring Layla, Deadshot Fracture, Sunday, January 18th, Free All Ages Sunday Matinee. Yo, we're playing up in Albany with Tree again, Saturday, January 13th. And then the next day, we're playing an early show at the Jewel of upstate New York, Kingston, New York at Snapper McGee's. And then, oh shit, I'm not supposed to announce that yet. But yo, we're playing, it's going to be a record release show at the Bowery Electric on February 15th. The new record's called New York City. So there you go. All that.
Fantastic.
All this and more.
All the good stuff. Yeah.
Isn't that wild that this dude went to like high school with the guys from the Germs? How funny is that?
Incredible.
You know?
Incredible. Yeah.
Pretty wild, you know?
Small world, man.
Good stuff. So, all right. There you have it.
Yep.
Thank you for stopping by, everybody. Saturday, make sure you get to Bridge 9. Hopefully, I will see you there. Sunday, we'll be back here. And then the following Saturday, we'll be up in Connecticut. Oh, wait, when is this? Oh, this is Wednesday. Wait, this is Wednesday. This got moved to Wednesday. All right, so, yo, this is what's up. Yeah, busy week. Here, just in case you're confused. Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday.
Okay. All right. Then we take a break for Thanksgiving.
No, yeah, right. Then we take a break.
Take a break for Thanksgiving.
Hallelujah.
And then we're back.
Right.
So,
Well, thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Come up on Saturday, Drew.
Yeah. It's going to be a wonderful.
Yeah, the Boston band Tree. Where you been, bro? We've been playing. It's like every friggin' show ID plays is with goddamn Tree. And here's another one up in Albany. Yeah, Tree.
Yep. And I have Albany is
wow, you just broke my brain, guy.
Go to for shows. Empire, I love Empire Live, Empire Underground. It's really a lot of fun. It's
I got shouting out Mike Valente of of B&B Upstate for booking their
absolutely.
shows.
That's where we were on Saturday. We were in the underground. So it's not, the live is out front and then you go around through an alley. You feel like you're going to get killed, but no.
Sneaking Sally down the alley. Yep.
Yeah, you go around the alley and basically it's a giant parking garage. So, but the sound in there is great. It's a lot of fun. Wear comfortable shoes because you'll be on concrete all night.
I think this is the third time or fourth time we're playing there already.
Yeah, I remember seeing you there with
Madball.
Yeah, and Death Before Dishonor.
You know why we're doing this? Because I like the breakfast at that hotel across the street.
We always stay at that hotel. Yeah, we always stay at that hotel across the street. It's a good breakfast.
That's like my thing. Like having breakfast with my friends. That's like my thing.
Yeah.
So I have to figure it out.
All right. If it's not snowing, I'll be there.
Yeah, right. All right. Thank you. It was a great show. Okay. Great day.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging in there, everybody. What a fantastic show. It was really great. Really great having a guest like Steve Wynn on. It can't be hardcore 24. It can't be hardcore all the time. It was nice to mix it up a little bit. The guy's a friggin' legend. The guy's a gem. So thanks a lot, everybody. This was the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. And until next time, do good things, and good things will certainly, I can guarantee it, come to you.
Conditioned by indoctrination, conditioned by society. You're a victim of the digital age, a 21st century casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Conditioned by misinformation, it's just a